Hello and welcome to Unacademy IAS English, a one-stop destination for the English medium civil services aspirants. Welcome to stage 4 of Conquer Prelims. Under this stage, we are covering the most important current affairs of the last 12 months for each and every subject. As of now, we have already covered polity, places in news, and environment and ecology. Today, we will be discussing the last 12 months of current affairs from international relations, which can be very important for the upcoming prelims exam. So, in today's session, we'll be covering a number of topics. Under each topic, we would be taking up practice questions. And in the discussion, I will include a number of subtopics as well so that we can comprehensively cover the most relevant and the most important topics from IR for the upcoming prelims exam. So I want all of you to participate in the session. For each question, I want you guys to attempt to answer the question. We will discuss the topic in complete detail, but I want you to try and attempt answering these MCQs so that you will get sufficient practice before the exam. And to make it simpler, what I have done is I have divided all the topics into subsections as well, so that when you use the PDF later to revise, it should be easy for you to carry out a sectional revision. So, first, we'll be talking about topics related to India's bilateral relations, India's ties with its neighboring countries, and some important global powers. Next, we will cover a few important international organizations, multilateral groupings, and regional organizations which have been in the news. We will also discuss a few important treaties, conventions, and summits, along with few topics from security. Because if you have seen last year's prelims paper, UPSC surprised everyone by asking 3 questions from internal security. So there are few security related topics as well, which I would include under this section. And finally, I would I would give you a ready-made list of important military exercises that were in the news, which can come as a factual question in the prelims exam. So after you watch this session today, if you want the PDF with the detailed annotations, all you have to do is scan the QR code on your screen and join my Telegram channel. I will add the link of the Telegram channel as well in the video description so that you can join my channel so that I'll be sharing this PDF as soon as the session gets over. Now, before we start, we have a very important and a very big announcement. Recently, UPSC has announced results for 2024, and Unacademy students have performed phenomenally well. 80 plus students from our Plus program, from our paid subscription, have managed to clear the exam. So, this Sunday on 27th April, we will be felicitating the toppers at Unacademy MANZIL. So I want all of you to join this event live because you'll get a chance to meet your top educators. There would be a lot of surprises for you. And along with that, you will get to listen to the toppers of 2024 Civil Services Examination. This event will be live from 12 p.m. onwards on 27th April on the UPSC Unstoppables YouTube channel by Unacademy. So, to ensure you don't forget and miss the session, all you have to do is search for UPSC Unstoppables YouTube channel. Just go on YouTube and search for UPSC Unstoppables by Unacademy. You will see the live stream of the session. So, I want you to click on Notify Me so that once we go live on 27th April, you will get notified and all of you can join us live so that you can interact with the toppers and the educators. With this, let's get started with today's discussion. We'll be starting with India's bilateral relations. There are quite a few important topics to discuss, and there will be a lot of MCQs for each and every topic. So, I would start with India's relations with Bangladesh. Given the developments of the last 1 year, I strongly feel that something related to Bangladesh might be asked in this year's prelims. As you all know, last year, Bangladesh went through a political upheaval. The Awami League government of Sheikh Hasina was overthrown following a massive political crisis in the country, and an interim government has been put in place under Muhammad Yunus. So, ever since the new government took over, India has had a problematic relationship with Bangladesh because the Sheikh Hasina government was a trusted partner for India. But now it appears that two hostile elements and anti India forces have taken control, and there have been a lot of adverse developments in the relationship. So that is why this topic becomes very important, especially some points related to connectivity projects between India and Bangladesh can be extremely important. So let me give you some important facts which can be useful for answering a prelims question. We'll look at some important connectivity projects as well, and we will take up a practice question. So the reason why the topic is relevant is because of the political upheaval in the country, because Bangladesh has always been a key strategic and economic partner. Don't forget, we share the longest land border with this country. The land border stretches to 4,096 kilometers. So given that we have the longest land border with Bangladesh, definitely border security, border management has always been a challenge. It has been a concern. This border has been frequently misused as well. It has enabled illegal migration into India. It has led to infiltration of criminals who work for organized criminal cartels. All forms of organized crime can be seen across this border, from drug trafficking to human trafficking to cattle smuggling. And we also see the prevalence of the insurgent and terrorist groups that target India. They often freely move across the border, posing a significant threat to India, be it Northeast insurgent groups or other terrorist outfits cultivated by Pakistan, which have been waging a war against India. So, given these factors, Bangladesh becomes a very important country for us. And that is why you should be aware of some important facts which have been making the headlines. So, what I've done, I've gone through multiple newspapers and sources: the Hindu, the Indian Express, the print, then even Scroll and Hindustan Times, and also referred to MEA's website, updates from PIB, and also from think tanks such as ORF, and collected some important facts for you for each and every topic. So, Bangladesh, if you look at the economic ties that we share with this country, the economic relations are of utmost importance. Bangladesh happens to be our largest trading partner in entire South Asia. Amongst all our neighbors, the largest trade relationship we had was with Bangladesh. And India is the second biggest trade partner for Bangladesh as well. So we have a lot of trade between the two countries. India procures several commodities, goods from Bangladesh, textiles, garments, even jute and paddy. And Bangladesh imports heavily from India. In fact, Bangladesh has a lot of dependency on India. That is why both the countries were considering a free trade agreement to help improve the trade relationship. When Sheikh Hasina was in power, Prime Minister Modi had proposed a free trade agreement, and both the countries were in the process of negotiating an FTA. We also have very close defense relations, at least when the Sheikh Hasina government existed, when both the countries were trusted partners of each other in the field of security in particular. We used to conduct regular military exercises between the two armies. The name of the exercise is Sampriti. So please make a note of this point as well. And both India and Bangladesh are important regional partners in South Asia and also in the Indian Ocean region. Because don't forget, Bangladesh is a littoral state of the Indian Ocean. It's part of the Bay of Bengal rim, which is shared with India. So, India Bangladesh drive regional diplomacy together. We are part of some important regional groupings. And please make a note of these organizations. We are members of the SARC grouping, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. We are members of BIMSTEC, the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. We are members of the BBIN Initiative, a motor vehicles agreement between Bangladesh. Bhutan was also supposed to be a part of it, but however, Bhutan's parliament has rejected the motor vehicles agreement. Apart from them, India, Nepal are part of it. So this motor vehicles agreement intends to facilitate easy movement of goods carrying trucks and vehicles to promote trade between Bangladesh, India, Nepal, and in the future, if possible, Bhutan may join as well. We are also members of IORA, the Indian Ocean Rim Association. That is something important. You need to note down that India, Bangladesh have often worked together in the field of maritime security with regard to tackling organized crime, tackling terrorism, dealing with disasters in the region. We are also part of the Colombo Security Conclave, which we are going to study later. So India, Bangladesh are partners in all these regional groups, and they're driving regional diplomacy to protect their interests in these regions, in South Asia and across the Bay of Bengal and Indian Ocean region. Now, coming to connectivity, I think this topic is very important because recently India has made a big announcement, which we are going to discuss. India has basically stopped the transshipment facility which we had extended to Bangladesh. Bangladesh can no longer use Indian facilities for trading with other countries. So, given this development, and also India has just announced 4 days ago that we are stopping all the cross border railway projects which had started. So, India has taken few drastic steps given the hostility in Bangladesh and given that Bangladesh has not been responding to Indian concerns. So, that is why the cross border connectivity projects can be very, very important for the prelims exam. So, let's look at the cross border rail links that exist between the two countries. I've shared a detailed map as well, along with the names of some of these projects. So, if possible, try and remember this, especially the Agartala Akura rail line, which was inaugurated in 2023, and also the Petropol Benapole railway link. These are some important projects which are frequently mentioned in the news because these rail links are used to bring Bangladeshi goods into India, which is further exported to other countries. India had extended this facility to help increase Bangladeshi exports. So Bangladesh was relying on Indian facilities, Indian transshipment facilities. It was using the Kolkata Haldia port. It was relying on various airports of India, particularly in eastern India, to export its goods to other countries, to third countries. So, in a way, Bangladeshi exports were dependent on Indian infrastructure. So, recently, we have stopped this arrangement. We have ensured that Bangladesh cannot use India's transshipment facility. So this could significantly hurt the exports from Bangladesh. That is why you should be aware of these important cross-border projects. These rail projects in particular were being used to transport Bangladeshi exports to India, which would further be re-exported to other countries. Then please note down the names of the three railway trains which are operating between India and Bangladesh. The Maitri Express, Bandhan Express, and Mitali Express. All the three are very popular. They're frequently mentioned in the news as well. And especially the rail link between Petropol and Benapole is very important. Why? Because Petropol is the largest land port in Asia, the busiest land port as well in Asia. So this port, which exists on West Bengal Bangladesh border, has been very crucial for Bangladeshi exports because this rail route and the land port at Petropol, we have an integrated check post over here. It is very close to Kolkata Haldia port. It's very close to the Mongla and Chittagong port as well. Especially Mongla port is close by. So Bangladesh used to rely on the Petropol Benapole rail link. And recently, the Akura Agartala rail link, which has been opened, which has brought Tripura closer to Bangladesh, has also been in the news because it has been beneficial for both the sides. And Bangladesh, in particular, has been using these cross border railway links to boost its exports. Then, if you look at the inland navigation projects that we have, India Bangladesh have interlinked the inland navigation routes as well. Few years ago, we established a protocol on inland water transit and trade, which facilitates the linkage of our national waterways with the inland waterways of Bangladesh. You would have studied in geography or in economy about national waterways of India. National waterway number 1 on the Ganga River, National waterway number 2 on the Brahmaputra, National waterway number 16 on the Barak River. These important modes of transport and transit, they were interlinked with the river systems in Bangladesh. As the Ganga, Brahmaputra, Barak, they flow into Bangladesh before they join to become the Meghna. The inland navigation routes of Bangladesh can be very useful for both the sides. India would also benefit from this because these connectivity projects will give an alternate route for us to access the northeast of India, which is landlocked. I'm sure all of you know that accessing northeast India through Siliguri corridor is very challenging for India. The Siliguri corridor is a vulnerable choke point. That's why it's often referred to as the chicken's neck of India. Also creating connectivity and transport projects via Siliguri is very challenging because of the difficult geography present over here. So we have relied on Bangladesh heavily to create an alternate access route to Northeast India through these cross border railway projects, inland navigation projects, and even by connecting our roads. That is why it is very important. Even Bangladesh has been dependent on these projects as it helps the Bangladeshi economy to increase its exports by bringing the goods to India and also re exporting them to third countries. Now, recently, there was a major project which was inaugurated just in 2023. I know it's a slightly old topic, but since UPSC has not asked a question on this, I still feel the topic can be relevant. The India Bangladesh Friendship Pipeline, an energy pipeline transporting high speed diesel between the two countries from the Numaligarh refinery in Assam. It transports high speed diesel via Siliguri into Bangladesh, and this project was recently inaugurated. So, this serves the energy interests of Bangladesh. It brings reliable energy supplies at a cheaper and efficient cost, which has benefited Bangladesh immensely. So I still feel this topic has potential, and UPSC might bring this back and ask this in maybe one of the questions. Now, if you look at the strategic ports of Bangladesh and India, this topic in particular has been making the headlines over the last few days because India, as I said, has stopped the transshipment facilities. So Bangladesh is home to two important ports, Mongla and Chittagong, also called Chattogram Port. So please identify these locations on a map. Be familiar with the location of these ports, Mongla and Chattogram. They are the lifelines of the Bangladeshi economy as it allows Bangladesh to access the Bay of Bengal. Now, as you can see, Northeast India, which is landlocked, can be given sea access through the Bangladeshi ports. If we connect our railway, road, and inland navigation projects with Bangladesh, Northeast India can access the Mongla Chattogram port to increase the exports of Northeast India as well. Bangladesh can rely on our Kolkata Haldia port and other transshipment facilities present in eastern India to increase its own exports. So, by looking at the advantages that was present, India Bangladesh entered into an arrangement in 2020. Since 2020, India allowed Bangladesh to make use of India's port facilities to bring the goods to India and use Indian seaports, Indian airports to export to third countries, including Bhutan, Nepal, and many other countries around the world. It is this facility which we have stopped, but it will not affect Bangladeshi exports to Nepal and Bhutan because we don't want Nepal and Bhutan to be affected, as both Nepal and Bhutan are landlocked nations which are dependent on India and Bangladesh. So Bangladeshi goods going to Nepal and Bhutan will continue, but Bangladeshi exports to other third countries will be stopped henceforth. So this is all related to the tensions which have come up between India and Bangladesh, the rise of anti-India elements, the targeting of religious minorities in the country, and how the administration of Muhammad Yunus has gotten closer to Pakistan and China at the cost of Indian security interests. So all these developments have led India to take this big decision to suspend the transshipment arrangement that we had. And this is going to take a significant toll on the exports of Bangladesh. See, this decision was taken after Muhammad Yunus made a very controversial statement. He recently visited China, and when he was in Beijing meeting with Xi Jinping, he made a very controversial statement. He said Northeast India is landlocked and dependent on Bangladesh. He also said that Bangladesh is the guardian of the ocean. He urged China to make use of Bangladeshi ports to access Northeast India. This was not well received by India. It almost appeared to be a threat that Bangladesh was issuing on Chinese soil. So many experts are seeing this as a retaliation from India. And not just that, there have been other provocations from Bangladesh in recent times. Bangladesh has recently permitted China to set up a air base very close to Siliguri corridor. And I feel this point can also be important for prelims. Bangladesh has offered an air base known as Lal Manor Hath, Lal Monir Hath, which is very close to Siliguri corridor. Can you see this location here? Bangladesh is offering this airbase to China. It is looking to involve China in the development of this airbase, and this could be a strategic security threat for India. Given that Siliguri corridor is a weak point for India, it's a vulnerable choke point for us. Having a Chinese developed, Chinese run airbase nearby would be definitely a big threat because in the future, China might potentially turn this into a military base of its own, bringing Chinese fighter jets very close to Siliguri, which could basically cripple the northeast of India. So, India has received reports that Bangladesh has invited China to develop this strategic airbase, the Lal Monirhat Airbase. So, note down the name, the location, identify this on a map. There can be a possible question on this. So, these are the reasons why India has been retaliating against Bangladesh. As you know, minorities are not being protected. Religious fundamentalists have been targeting minority communities. India has been urging Bangladesh to protect them, and Bangladesh has been trying to ignore that responsibility. So, India has decided to halt all the railway projects as well. A very recent decision made just 4 days ago. So, that's why I feel this topic is very, very important. Now, based on this, let's take up a practice question. Let's see how many of you can answer this. Read the question carefully, try to answer the question, and then we will evaluate this question. Consider the following statements. Bangladesh and India have recently signed a free trade agreement. India Bangladesh Friendship Pipeline carries natural gas from India to Bangladesh. Bangladesh has joined the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. What is the right answer? You have to select statements which are correct. Let's see how many of you can answer this correctly. Many students are saying D. Some are saying C. Okay. Let's look at the statements one by one. Statement 1 is wrong. We discussed that FTA is being negotiated. India had proposed an FTA when Sheikh Hasina was in power, but the FTA was never finalized. It was never signed. Before that, Sheikh Hasina's government was toppled and a new interim government was put in place. And since then, we have had a problematic relationship with Bangladesh. So there is no FTA between India and Bangladesh. Second statement is also wrong. The India-Bangladesh Friendship Pipeline. It does not carry natural gas between the two countries. It carries high-speed diesel. It transports high-speed diesel from the Numaligarh refinery in Assam to Bangladesh, not natural gas. Third statement is correct. Bangladesh has recently joined an initiative founded by India, initiative led by India, the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. Last year, it became a member of the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, and we will study this topic separately. When we take up multilateral groups, we will talk about Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. I have a question based on that as well. So only the third statement is correct. Option D becomes the right answer. 3 only. So I hope this topic is clear. Now let's move on to the second topic. Let's start with a practice question and then we will discuss this topic in slight detail. So second question for all of you. Let's see if you can answer this question. India has been implementing high impact community development projects in which country? In one of these countries, from many years, India has been funding something known as high impact community development projects. So, when we say community development projects, it refers to grassroots projects, maybe in the field of rural development or agriculture or education or healthcare or creation of essential infrastructure at the grassroots level. So, in one of these countries, we have been funding these high impact socio-economic development projects. So, in which country is it? Because this was in the news. Some are saying A, some are saying D, some are saying B as well. Let me give you the correct answer. It is option B, Nepal. It's not Bhutan, it's not Maldives or Tanzania. Correct answer would be in Nepal. India has been implementing these high impact community development projects. So let's understand some details about this and few related points with regard to India-Nepal relations. In 2003, India launched this program. We have taken up more than 500 grassroots development projects. It is entirely funded by India. We take up the implementation, the execution of these projects as well. It could be building a school or a library in a village, or building a small road in a remote area, or providing basic facilities from water to electricity to solar panels. So these projects have a high impact on the on the local communities in Nepal. This will create a goodwill for India. It will generate soft power for India. Recently, India has announced 625 million rupees in funding to build 12 new high impact community development projects covering drinking water, health, agriculture, education, and even cultural sector. There are important cultural shrines linked with Hinduism, Buddhism that form a common link between India and Nepal. So we are trying to create tourist amenities and better infrastructure at these sacred pilgrimage sites. There are school projects that India has taken up, along with healthcare centers, which we are funding and setting up. So this topic was regularly in the news because in Nepal as well, we have a problematic leader who has come to power, KP Sharma Oli, current Prime Minister of Nepal, who's known for his anti India approach. During his previous term, KP Oli had unnecessarily escalated the border disputes between India and Nepal. I'm referring to the Kalapani dispute and the Susta dispute, which were unnecessarily exaggerated and blown out of proportion by KP Oli, who is seen as a pro China, anti India leader. This leader has come back as a Prime Minister of Nepal, and we have been dealing with a complicated relationship with Nepal. Nepal has gone through a lot of political turmoil as well. Indian interests are constantly under threat. There is intense India China competition. So I feel this point can be relevant for the exam because it builds India's soft power presence and it has a high impact on the ground, especially on the local communities. There are three more projects between India and Nepal which can be very important. Let's cover them as well. See, Nepal is a Himalayan state, correct? Which means it is blessed with perennial rivers which are not dependent on just rainfall. They are fed by the Himalayan glaciers as well. Also, Nepal being home to the Himalayan mountain ranges, there are deep gorges present because of the young fold nature of the Himalayan mountains. So, what happens when water flows constantly throughout the year through these deep gorges? The water basically has tremendous hydropower potential. The constant availability of water in the rivers of Nepal that originate in the Himalayas, that flow down with great speed, great velocity down the Himalayan deep gorges. It creates the perfect hydropower potential. So India has always prioritized hydropower cooperation with Nepal. Initially, we were struggling because many Indian projects they ran into trouble. Even today, we still have to make some progress. There are some projects which we had proposed which have not started yet, which have not taken off because of the complications in the relationship, because of local protests on environmental grounds, on social grounds, and sometimes also due to India's inability to arrange the finances. Some of these mega hydropower projects that we planned, they never took off. But today we are executing a mega project in Nepal. So here we face stiff competition from China. China has already built major hydro projects in Nepal. So that's why I feel there are three projects in the news which can be important for the exam. I want you to make a note of this. The first one would be the Pancheshwar Multi-Purpose Project. The Pancheshwar Multi-Purpose Project proposed by India many years ago. The initial proposal goes back to 1960s. We proposed this mega project on the Mahakali River, also known as the Sarda River. That's exactly where the Kalapani dispute is also present between India and Nepal. So this river flows across the India-Nepal border towards Uttarakhand. And India had proposed a mega project. We have come up with a design. It would be a multi-purpose project. There would be a hydropower dam. The water could be used for irrigation, for drinking purposes. It will help in flood management, flood control, because this region is prone to heavy rainfall, cloud bursts, and flash floods. So flood management is also one of the objectives of this mega project. But this project has not started. It has not taken off. But India is actively pushing for its implementation. One reason why Nepal has held back on this project is because the proposed site of the Pancheshwar Dam is exactly on the India-Nepal border where the Kalapani dispute is present. But India is trying to push for this initiative. It would be mutually beneficial. It will help both the countries. We would be sharing the hydropower. It will help in flood management and water management in this critical drainage basin. So this is the Pancheshwar hydro project, multi-purpose project pushed by India. Then we have the West Sethi project, which India has taken up recently over the West Sethi River. Over the Sethi River in western parts of Nepal, the West Sethi project has been taken up by India. But the mega project which India has started would be the Arun project, especially Arun 3, which is a mega hydropower project. It's being built on one of the tributaries of the Kosi River. Arun is the tributary which is the focus of these projects, right? It's a major tributary over here, the river Arun, which joins the Kosi River as it enters Bihar. So on the Arun River, we have many hydro projects that have been planned, and Arun 3 is a priority for us. This could solve the deficit in electricity in Nepal and parts of India as well. And also, please note, we have interconnected our power grids between the BBIN countries. This is something you should be aware of. With India's leadership, the power grids of the BBIN countries, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, and Nepal, these four countries, their power grids are interconnected. Because see, India has successfully invested in Bhutan in hydro projects. Bhutan is generating surplus electricity. So we take that surplus from Bhutan and re-export that to Bangladesh and Nepal. And we also take electricity from Nepal. India purchases the electricity from these projects. And we even re-export this to Bangladesh. So there is a common power grid that we have set up between the BBIN countries. That is something you need to note down. So please remember these three projects. The Pancheshwar multipurpose project on Mahakali River, or also called Kali or Sarda River, right? It has not started yet. Then West Sethi project on the Sethi River, and Arun 3 in particular on the Arun River, which is a tributary of the Kosi River. So these basic facts, geography related facts, could be helpful to answer these kind of questions which can come in the exam. So now let's look at the third topic, the third question for you. Bhutan's upcoming Gelugpu Mindfulness City will border which Indian state? Let's see how many of you can answer this question. Bhutan has recently proposed a mega project, Gelugpu Mindfulness City. Bhutan wants to develop a new city. It basically is coming up along the borders of India. It's very close to the Indian border. Bhutan wants to transform this into a knowledge hub, a innovation hub. It wants to attract foreign investments. It wants to pioneer innovation in the mindfulness city. It is planning to build a new airport, which is being funded by India. It's being constructed by India as well. The Gelugpu airport is being built by India. India is a key partner in this project. This could unlock the potential for Northeast India as well. If this project succeeds in Bhutan, and if it manages to bring in foreign investments, right, this could create job opportunities for the youth in Northeast India. It could create more trade opportunities, and we could further extend the benefits of this project towards Southeast Asia, linking Bhutan with Southeast Asia so that Northeast India in the middle will benefit from both the sides. So there are some grand ambitions from India and Bhutan over the Gelugpu Mindfulness City project. So can you tell me, this proposed city which is coming up in Bhutan, along with a new airport and a new railway line, it is closest to which border? It lies along the border of which Indian state? Sikkim, Assam, West Bengal, Arunachal Pradesh. Very good. Most of you have answered correctly. Some are saying West Bengal, some are saying Sikkim, but many of you have given the right answer. The correct answer is Assam. Let me show you the map. Please look at the map given over here. See, this is where Bhutan is setting up the Gelugpu Mindfulness City along the borders of Assam. A new airport is being built as well with Indian funding and Indian assistance. And we are also building the first ever cross border railway line between India and Bhutan, which will link Kokrajhar in Assam, in the Bodo areas of Assam. It will connect with Gelugpu. This cross border railway project, which is also funded by India, being set up by India, it will improve cross border trade and movement. Right? So this could easily create an opportunity for the youth in Assam and other parts of Northeast India, from Nagaland to Manipur to Arunachal Pradesh to Meghalaya, to seek out job opportunities and newer opportunities in Gelugpu, which is right across the border in Bhutan. So if the project comes up and succeeds as India, Bhutan have envisioned, it can really transform the economic outlook of this region. It could drive new economic opportunities in Northeast India, and we could further extend that benefit towards Southeast Asia, creating a common link from Bhutan to Northeast India to Southeast Asia. That's why this topic can be very important. Then, since we were talking about India's hydropower investments in Bhutan, there are few hydro projects in Bhutan which are in the news, which can be asked by UPSC as a prelims question. So I've given you the entire list of the Indian investments in Bhutan's hydropower, but please remember some of them which are very important. Remember the Punat Sangchu hydropower project, Mangdechu hydropower project, and as well as the Wangchu and Shamkarachu hydropower projects. These are recently in the news. These are some of the biggest projects that we have funded in Bhutan, and it has made Bhutan a surplus country in terms of electricity production. Bhutan is exporting electricity to India, which we in turn export to Bangladesh and Nepal, or sometimes we use it as well. So please note down some of the names of these projects, be familiar with it, so that if at all there is a question on these projects, you should be able to answer that. Now, moving on to the next topic, let's look at the next question. Which country benefited from the below given assistance operations of India? So there are three major operations that India carried out in the past. They have been mentioned over here. And you need to tell me which country benefited from all of these projects. Mission Sagar, Vaccine Maitri, Operation Neer. Three Indian operations are mentioned over here where we delivered assistance to other countries. So, but there is one country which is common to all the three. There is one country which benefited from all the three missions that India ran. So, which country is that? Is it Sri Lanka? Is it Maldives? Is it Mauritius or Seychelles? Try to answer this. Meanwhile, I'll explain these operations one by one. Mission Sagar was launched by India during the COVID-19 pandemic. When the COVID-19 pandemic broke out, India provided medical assistance to several countries across the Indian Ocean, which was delivered by the Indian Navy. So several countries across the Indian Ocean benefited. India provided the essential equipment and supplies needed to fight the pandemic. We provided basic supply of drugs, oxygen, PPE kits, sanitizers, etc., whatever was needed to combat the pandemic. These supplies were delivered free of cost by India to many countries across the Indian Ocean region under Mission Sagar. So Sri Lanka, Maldives, Mauritius, even East African countries like Tanzania, Mozambique, they all benefited from this initiative. Is that clear? So this was Mission Sagar. Even Vietnam received support under Mission Sagar. Seychelles received support from India under Mission Sagar. Then comes Vaccine Maitri. So during the pandemic, when India started mass producing the COVID vaccines, we started dispatching the vaccines free of cost to many countries. Several poor, developing, underdeveloped countries benefited from this initiative. Several African countries got free vaccine supplies from India. Most of our neighbors, Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Mauritius, they all got free vaccine supplies from India. Even Afghanistan, Seychelles, many countries in the Caribbean, in South America, even in the South Pacific, the small island countries, they all received free vaccines from India. Central Asian countries also received vaccine supplies from India. This was Vaccine Maitri initiative. Then comes Operation Neer, is mentioned here. What is Operation Neer? Under Operation Neer, India delivered water aid, drinking water to a country. And which country was this? Maldives. The Maldives is a island nation made up of hundreds of small islands. It's an archipelago of islands. So Maldives has a scarcity of potable water, right? It doesn't have major sources for clean drinking water. It depends heavily on desalination. It takes the seawater and desalinates them and uses that for drinking purposes. So in Malé, the most important desalination plant suffered an accident in 2014. There was a fire accident which destroyed the desalination plant. And as a result, Maldives faced a critical water shortage, a drinking water shortage. And guess who came to help? It was India, Indian Navy, that carried large supplies of drinking water and supplied this to Maldives under Operation Neer. So, which is that country that has benefited from all the three? Obviously, Maldives. Option B is the right answer. Maldives received support under Mission Sagar and Vaccine Maitri as well, along with many other countries. So, if you know about Operation Neer, only then you can answer this question, right? You might know that many countries got support under Mission Sagar and Vaccine Maitri. But which is that country which benefited from Operation Neer? It is Maldives, when India delivered water aid to Maldives. Now, why am I taking these old assistance programs of India and asking a question? How is it relevant for this year's prelims? That's because there have been a lot of developments in India-Maldives relationship. Again, in Maldives, we saw the rise of anti-India sentiments under an anti-India leader. We saw Maldives getting closer to China, to Turkey, Pakistan, building strategic defense relations with them, and even threatening the close relations between India and Maldives. But finally, India's careful diplomacy worked. Maldives needed support from India. Maldives is dependent on India. Maldives is facing a financial economic crisis. It needed support from India. And India has managed to correct the path. We have managed to regain the influence and the lost ground. And today, relations have slightly improved. And we have some big projects going on in Maldives where we compete with China's Belt and Road Initiative. So, given those developments, there might be possible questions on something related to Maldives. Is that clear? So, please make a note of this. And also, the rest of the developments are largely mains oriented, not prelims oriented. So that is something you should keep in mind. So there is one Coast Guard project which India has taken up, and I want you guys to find out the name of this project. India is funding this initiative, by the way. We are funding a Coast Guard harbor. India will be financing it, constructing it as well. So clearly, it has a defense purpose, right? It will enable the Maldivian Coast Guard and defense forces to make use of this facility. Can you find out the name of this project? So that's a small homework, a small exercise for all of you. Now let's move on to the next topic. Next question. So read this question carefully. It's related to India's relations with a very important partner. So it's related to a topic known as the Security of Supply Agreement. So read the question, try to answer this, and then I'll discuss this topic in detail. Consider the following statements. India has recently signed a security of supply arrangement with France. The SOSA, Security of Supply Arrangement or Security of Supply Agreement. So India has signed this with France. That's what the first statement says. Is it correct or wrong? This arrangement or this agreement enables the two parties to secure mutual timely provision of defense related goods and services during peacetime, emergency, and armed conflict. Saying that between the two countries, when it comes to supply of defense related goods and services, both the sides will have an obligation to ensure that timely supplies are provided, right? Especially during peacetime or emergency or even during a armed conflict or a war, which the other country might be facing. So, can you check which of the statements are correct and what's the right answer? Most of them are saying B. Very good. Statement 1 is incorrect. Statement 1 is wrong. We have not signed this agreement with France. India has recently signed the Security of Supply Agreement with United States. It's a defense related agreement between India and US, not India and France. Second statement is correct. This agreement basically places an obligation on the defense vendors and suppliers on both the sides to deliver the supply of defense goods and services during peacetime, emergency, and as well as during wartime. So the correct answer is B, 2 only. Only second statement is correct. Statement 1 is wrong. So this brings me to one of the most important topics, India-US relations and some new developments in India-US relationship, which can be relevant for the prelims exam. So let's talk about security of supply arrangement or security of supply agreement. And then we'll discuss another initiative which has been recently in the news. India-US relations can be very, very crucial because we have a new administration in the US under President Trump. Recently, PM Modi has visited United States as well. US Vice President JD Vance has come to India. So based on India-US ties and some new initiatives, there can be a prelims question. So security of supply arrangement, as I said, it provides a guarantee to both the parties. It's a mutual assurance that they are giving to each other that our defense suppliers, it could be a government defense company or a private defense company, if once a contract has been signed, they will ensure the timely delivery of the military goods, defense related services to the other partner. Now, let's say India might have placed an order for a military hardware from the US. So those American companies will have a obligation here, a contractual obligation to deliver these supplies of goods and services on time to India, even during peacetime and even during emergency and wartime. And vice versa. Let's say US has placed an order for defense components from Indian companies. Today there are many private Indian defense companies which have exports to the US as well. So if US invokes these provisions, be it during peacetime or during war, Indian companies will be obligated to live up to the contractual commitment, deliver the supply of those defense goods and services so it can serve the national security interests of both the countries. But however, it is not legally binding. It's like a contractual duty, a contractual obligation, but it's not legally enforceable. It's legally non-binding. Please make a note of this point. The United States has signed the same agreement, a similar agreement with many other partners. India is the 18th country to have signed this agreement. The other close allies of US, the NATO allies in particular, many of them have signed the security of supply agreement. It guarantees that the supply chains will not be disrupted during war, during emergency. It ensures military supplies are delivered as committed, as promised. But however, it is legally non-binding. So this agreement was signed very recently when Defense Minister Rajnath Singh visited United States last year. Next, India US, they have launched a new initiative by replacing an old initiative. Previously, we had a very important initiative called ICET, the Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies, which was launched between the Modi government and the Biden administration. I think we've discussed this many times. I'd covered this topic last year prelims as well, right? So now ICET has been replaced with a brand new initiative called Trust. When PM Modi visited United States and met with Donald Trump, the Indian government with the Trump administration has decided to replace ICET and rebrand and rename this initiative. So now it is called Trust. It stands for Transforming Relations Utilizing Strategic Technologies. So fundamentally, there is no difference between ICET and Trust. They're practically pretty much the same. There are some differences, but you can see that Trust is like an upgrade. It's a rebranded, renewed version of ICET. So let's understand what exactly is ICET and how is Trust slightly different from ICET. ICET, as the name itself tells you, it was an initiative on critical and emerging technologies, be it artificial intelligence, semiconductors, quantum computing, renewable energy, advanced forms of communication like 5G, 6G networks, open RAN networks. So these critical emerging technologies were the focus. The idea was to bring together the public sector research organizations from India, US, together with the private sector organizations and universities and the academia so that we can promote joint research, joint innovation in these critical emerging domains. From robotics to artificial intelligence. So this would not only bring out civilian technologies which have a commercial purpose, it would also focus on military technologies, defense technologies as well. So this initiative was pioneered by President Biden with Prime Minister Modi. So it was called ICET. Now this has been rebranded, replaced by the Trust Initiative, Transforming Relations Utilizing Strategic Technologies, which is an initiative pushed by the Trump administration. So how is Trust different from ICET? The only difference you find is that there is focus on verifying the vendors who are supplying key components, key technologies. It's a reference to ensuring the security of supply chains, ensuring that India US do not become dependent on China controlled supply chains. So when it comes to critical technologies, be it some defense technologies, be it renewable energy technology, such as, let's say, battery technology, for example, or be it supply of critical minerals or supply of key components, which is crucial in the communication industry. Both India, US have a lot of dependency on China. So both India, US have security concerns regarding Chinese supplied components and technologies. So under the trust initiative, there will be focus on ensuring the security of the supply chain, ensuring that only trusted, verifiable partners and vendors will be supplying to both India and US. They will not only focus on joint research and innovation between their private sector, academia, and government funded organizations. They will also try to ensure that the supply chains on which they are dependent for AI technologies, for 5G, 6G networks, it is foolproof. There is a possibility that Chinese companies could create a security backdoor so that Chinese intelligence agencies can hack into these technologies or remotely control them. And this could have national security implications for India and US. So to ensure that they procure technologies and materials and components only from trusted vendors, only from reliable partners, and ensure that sensitive technologies are protected. Because China is known to steal intellectual property. China is known to have stolen intellectual property from many American research organizations, universities, and even defense companies. China simply steals the design or the process and replicates it and makes its own version of it. So, ensuring that sensitive technologies are protected, especially in AI, in cybersecurity, in quantum computing, in semiconductors, in 5G, 6G networks, that is a focus of the Trust Initiative. So, along with boosting collaboration between our research organizations in the public and private sector, it will also focus on ensuring the security of the material, the components which are being supplied in the supply chain, ensuring we procure only from trusted, verifiable partners, ensuring that Chinese security agencies cannot hack into these key technologies that India, US are developing and deploying. That is the purpose and focus of the Trust Initiative. So Trust replaces ICET. There is a component on critical minerals as well. That is something new. ICET did not have any focus on critical minerals. Though India, US are part of a separate initiative called Mineral Security Partnership. It's a US led initiative to secure the supply of critical minerals and rare earth elements, which have a critical strategic value. So India also has joined the Mineral Security Partnership with many other American allies. Though we have this separate partnership, under the Trust Initiative, Trump administration is promoting securing the supplies of critical minerals, deepening the trust between the supply chains of India and US, and focus on quantum computing as well, which the Biden administration did not really prioritize. So this is another difference that you find between Trust and ICET. Then we had something called Indus X. Indus X was an innovation initiative for the defense sector that was started under ICET. It stands for India US Defense Acceleration Ecosystem. So Indus X initiative was under ICET. Now this has been retained under Trust initiative as well. It allows the defense research organizations to come together from India and US and collaborate in defense technologies. Be it public sector organizations like DRDO or private defense companies from India and US or defense startups from India and US, even universities and academia working on defense projects, military projects, they can come together under Indus X to accelerate innovation. It's an innovation bridge between India and US to accelerate defense research and development. So this initiative started under ICET has been retained under Trust Initiative as well. So please remember these points. UPSC can definitely bring up a question on this topic. So I hope the topic is clear to everyone. Now let's look at another important topic which was in the news. Project Nexus, seen recently in news, refers to what? I'm not sure how many of you would have heard about this. It was not widely mentioned. It's not a very popular topic, but I feel it's a very important topic. Project Nexus, what is it? It was recently in the news. Is it an AI based defense collaboration between India, Australia, Japan? Is it a fintech platform to enhance cross border payments between India and Southeast Asia? Is it India's quantum based cybersecurity initiative with Israel or none of the above? Straightforward question. Let's see how many of you know this topic. Very good. Some students are saying it's related to banking sector, cross-border payments. It's a fintech initiative. Very good. Option B is the right answer. Why is this topic in news? Last year, India and Singapore pioneered Project Nexus initiative. I'll explain what is Project Nexus, don't worry. It's a very important topic related to international relations, economy, and even security. So, India Singapore, when PM Modi visited Singapore, we signed a key agreement, and India's central bank is part of it, the Reserve Bank of India. So, Project Nexus is actually pioneered by the BIS, the Bank for International Settlements. I'm sure you would have studied about BIS in economy classes with Shamsar, right? So, BIS launched this initiative called Project Nexus to develop a fintech platform which can enable cross border payments in a seamless manner. See, today, India has become a pioneer in digital payments thanks to UPI, the Unified Payment Interface. And today, we are extending UPI to other countries. We are linking UPI with other instant fast payment systems in other countries like France, Singapore, UAE, so that cross border payments can happen and it will reduce our dependency on the dollar. We can use our national currencies to settle these transactions. It will reduce the transaction time, the transaction cost. It will benefit the tourists traveling between these two countries. It will benefit the traders, the importers and exporters to settle their trade balance. It will benefit the students, the workers who are working in the other country to receive money, to send money. Today, we are using various fintech apps, correct, to make quick transfers of money by using the UPI platform. So, such instantaneous payments can happen across borders as well. Imagine the potential behind that. So, this initiative is being driven by BIS, and the founding countries of this initiative with BIS includes India with four ASEAN countries: Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, and Thailand. These four ASEAN countries are working with India and the Bank for International Settlements to set up this platform. So, this will create a common standard, a global standard of sorts to integrate the digital payment interfaces. See, India's UPI might have a different structure, a different standard and model. It may not be easy to integrate India's UPI with Singapore's payment gateways or with Philippines or Malaysia's payment gateways. So, through BIS, Project Nexus will develop that common standard which is needed so that payment systems of different countries can be integrated to facilitate seamless cross border payments. So, these founding members, they have the first movers advantage. India and these four ASEAN countries, they have pioneered this initiative with BIS. So, we will stand to benefit immediately as it will help us interconnect our digital payment systems and provide for seamless financial transactions across borders. So, this is like a prototype which is being developed at the global level. If it works, this will be scaled to interconnect cross border systems across the world. And basically, it will reduce dependency on the SWIFT payment gateway, which is largely Western controlled by US and European economies. It will reduce dependency on the dollar as well. It will bring down the transaction cost, the transaction time, bringing huge economic benefits. That is Project Nexus, and it is very important. So please note down India and four ASEAN countries are part of this initiative, which is led by the Bank for International Settlements. So, on this note, I complete my discussion on some of the important topics related to India's bilateral relations, India's ties with other countries, the bilateral initiatives between India and other countries, which were in the news. These are the topics I feel is the most relevant for the exam. Now, let's proceed to the next segment: international organizations, multilateral groupings, regional groupings. This is where we get a lot of questions every year. So let's cover some of the most important organizations and groupings which were in the news. Now, if you want a small break, please let me know. We can take a short break because this is a one shot marathon session. It might extend to three, maybe 3.5 hours. So if you feel like taking a small break, please let me know. You can take a short break and we can come back and start the next section. Some are saying yes, some are saying no. Okay, let's take a 5 minutes break. Let's take a quick 5 minutes break. We will restart the session at 7:06 p.m. Okay, the first section is done, and we will start with the second section in 5 minutes, in another 5 minutes. Take a 5 minutes break and come back, and I'll see you then. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the session where we are discussing the most important current affairs from international relations over the last 12 months, which can be relevant for the upcoming prelims exam. So, in the last 1 hour, we have already completed the first section of our discussion where we discussed India's bilateral relations, the important topics related to that, and a lot of MCQs based on that as well. So now we take up the next segment where we discuss important international organizations, multilateral and regional groupings which were in the news. Let's start with the FATF, Financial Action Task Force. The FATF was in the news because last year India completed its review known as the Mutual Evaluation Report of the FATF, and India emerged with flying colors. The FATF conducts a periodic review of its members, whether the member countries are following the standards laid down by FATF. And in this regard, India performed very well in the mutual evaluation report. And this was widely covered in newspapers. So that's why the topic of FATF can be very important. So let's understand, what is FATF? When was it set up? What is its objective? What does it do? And what is India's relations with FATF? This is something we'll study before we take up a MCQ. The Financial Action Task Force is an intergovernmental body that was set up in 1989 by the G7 countries. The top seven economies, which included US, UK, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, they established the FATF in 1989 as the global economy was scaling up at a very rapid rate in the late 80s. It led to many instances of fraudulent transactions, government corruption, and all the corrupt money generated through illegal sources was being safely kept away by criminals and corrupt elements by using money laundering. Money laundering is an illegal process of converting essentially black money into white. Wealth that is generated through illegal sources is converted into legal wealth. So, as money laundering became an economic menace, it started threatening the economies of several countries. It led to a severe concern amongst the developed nations. So that is why they established a intergovernmental body to tackle the menace of money laundering, and that was the primary purpose of Financial Action Task Force. Its primary objective was to basically target money laundering networks, ensure that money laundering would be curtailed as it was posing an economic threat to the developed economies. Later in 2001, after the 9/11 terrorist attack, a clear link between money laundering and terrorist financing was established. This deadly attack carried out by Al Qaeda, it was uncovered by the US intelligence agencies and authorities that part of the finance which came in for the 9/11 attacks, the funds, they were mobilized through money laundering routes, which includes Hawala transactions. So a clear link emerged between money laundering routes such as Hawala transactions and terrorist financing. So after the 9/11 attacks, a new objective was added to FATF. A new goal was given to FATF to counter terrorist financing as well. So this organization is headquartered at the OECD headquarters in Paris. OECD is an economic organization of the European countries. So in Paris, where OECD is headquartered, that's where the FATF secretariat is present. So what does FATF do? How does it counter money laundering? How does it fight against terrorist financing? Let's understand this. See, FATF has three basic functions. This itself can come as a prelims question. What are the primary functions of FATF? The FATF has a task to come out with a set of global standards. It will act like a policy making body based on its research into money laundering, terror financing routes. It'll understand the trends and patterns around the world, and it will come out with certain specific measures which will evolve into a set of global standards to implement anti money laundering standards, AML standards, and CTF standards, counter terrorist financing standards. These standards will be recommended by the FATF for adoption and implementation, not just by the members of FATF, but also by jurisdictions across the world. The FATF has around 38 member countries. There are two regional groups as well, which are members of FATF, the European Union and the Gulf Cooperation Council. Even EU and GCC are members of FATF with nearly 38 countries, right? So close to 40 members are present. So not only the members are obligated to implement, adopt, and execute these standards to counter money laundering and terror financing, even every jurisdiction, even if a country is not a member of FATF, they will be bound by FATF standards as there are regional FATF styled bodies. Around the world, there are 9 regional FATF styled bodies that provide for the implementation of these standards. They enforce them. So countries and jurisdictions, they have an obligation to follow these global standards given by FATF and improve them and implement them through a national law. They can improve upon these standards and implement those standards through a national law. They have to declare money laundering as a criminal offense. They have to provide the required infrastructure and provisions and facilities to the concerned authorities to tackle money laundering and terrorist financing. They have to implement certain checks and balances in the banking system, in the financial system, so that there can be a clear check on money laundering practices and terror financing practices. So FATF acts as a policy making body coming out with these AML and CTF standards. AML stands for anti money laundering standards, CTF stands for counter terror financing standards. So FATF also has a power to enforce these standards. It can check the progress of the members, whether they are implementing these AML and CTF standards or not. Is there any deficiency in the implementation? Are there any shortcomings in the law that the countries have passed? So FATF can monitor the progress of a country. They can review and report on how countries are performing when it comes to tackling money laundering and terrorist financing. So the power of review has been provided, which allows FATF to enforce these standards. And if countries don't follow these standards, if they deliberately violate these anti money laundering and counter terror financing standards, they can be penalized by the FATF. The FATF has the powers to punish the countries which are not cooperating with the FATF. So, FATF members and all the jurisdictions around the world, they have certain obligations on them. They have to abide by the related international conventions, UN resolutions. For example, there are UN resolutions related to terrorist financing. There are international conventions related to organized crime, corruption, which could all be the source of money laundering, which could be the source of illegal wealth, the black money. So, all these established international conventions, treaties, UN resolutions, they have to be followed by the countries, by FATF members and jurisdictions around the world. As I said, they have to bring out a national law. They have to basically pass a law, bring out a legislation declaring money laundering as a criminal offense. For example, India has done this through the PMLA, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, which declares money laundering as a criminal punishable offense. The law should also clearly provide for confiscation of the proceeds of money laundering. Whatever proceeds arise from money laundering, it could be liquid assets or immovable assets that the criminals would have procured by using laundered money, ill gotten wealth. Those assets should be confiscated by the authorities. So, this provision should be provided in the law. Confiscation of the proceeds of money laundering and attaching those assets as part of the case. So, this ensures that the assets which are generated, assets which are procured through illegitimate methods, they can be confiscated by the authorities and it can be used to compensate those who have basically suffered losses because of money laundering and the practices related to money laundering. Maybe banks would have given out huge sums of loans which have never been paid back by these fraudulent actors. So those banks can recover the losses, right? The dues can be paid back. So confiscating the proceeds of money laundering is a key provision which has to be included in the law which is passed by the country. Similarly, the terror financing standards have to be implemented. India has adopted those standards through the UAPA, the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, which is the primary anti terror law that we have in the country. It has been amended to inculcate FATF standards with regard to terrorist financing. So, through PMLA and UAPA, India is abiding by FATF standards. We have national laws in place and we strictly provide for its implementation. Then, within the banking system and financial system, countries are expected to enforce due diligence. In India, for example, the KYC process, know your customer, which is strictly implemented by the banking regulator, that is RBI. It ensures that all the banking financial institutions, before they offer any service, before you can open a bank account, before you can secure a loan, before you, let's say, remit money from India to another country, be it inward or outward remittances, before you conduct any such financial transaction, KYC process is mandatory, right? Where you submit your documents, you provide sufficient proof as to where the money came from. So this helps the banks and financial institutions to keep a check on any fraudulent activity in the banking system. If someone is resorting to money laundering practices, if someone is introducing black money into the financial system, this step is called placement, right? Money launderers, they try to place the black money into the financial system to initiate the process of money laundering, basically to hide the dirt which is sitting on the money, to separate the illegal wealth from the actual owner and the actual source where it was generated from, so that it becomes clean money. So, to identify such fraudulent placements of money into the market, into the banking system, there are checks and balances present on the back end of the banking system. So, this is mandated by the FATF. All the banks and financial institutions have to keep appropriate records as per FATF standards. Any suspicious transaction has to be monitored, it has to be flagged and reported to the authorities. Then FATF recommends that the countries have to establish a financial intelligence unit and an enforcement directorate. FATF has recommended that there should be a dedicated intelligence agency to keep track of financial transactions and suspicious financial activity. There should be a dedicated law enforcement agency to enforce the law, to investigate money laundering offenses. So, India has established a financial intelligence unit. We have FIU India. We have the Directorate of Enforcement, which is the nodal authority to tackle money laundering cases. And FATF expects that countries have to cooperate with each other internationally because these offenses are of a transnational nature. Money laundering, terror financing, it occurs across borders. Multiple countries could be involved. So, to investigate these crimes and offenses, you will need evidence and information from other countries, from the law enforcement agencies, intelligence agencies of other countries. So, international cooperation has been mandated by the FATF. These are some of the obligations on the members and jurisdictions who come under the FATF. So, FATF has the power to monitor, to review the progress and the implementation. FATF carries out the mutual evaluation report, a periodic assessment of the countries, whether they are following and implementing those standards or not. And the members of FATF conduct a peer review in this mutual evaluation report. The other members look at the progress and implementation of the other country and they submit a peer report, which is taken up by the FATF. So, if there are countries which are deliberately not following the standards, or if there are shortcomings in the law or in the implementation, then FATF can even take action against them. Those countries which are matching up to FATF standards, right? They can be placed under the regular follow up category. A country in the regular follow up category basically would have implemented the FATF standards to the best possible extent. And India has found a place in this list. This is the topmost list you can be placed with regard to FATF. There are around 24 countries, most of them are developed economies from Europe, like United Kingdom, Italy, and others. India is one of the few developing nations in this list. That shows how strictly India has followed the anti-money laundering and counter-terror financing standards. That's why the mutual evaluation report is important. During the recent review, India's performance has been really praised and appreciated by FATF and the other members who carried out a peer review of India's standards and implementation. So India is in the regular follow-up category which means India has followed the best standards possible, implementing the best measures against money laundering and terror financing. Then comes enhanced follow up. Even countries like US and Australia are present here. These are countries where some deficiencies might be present when it comes to tackling money laundering and terror financing. They have to show some improvement. But apart from this, if there are jurisdictions which are deliberately not cooperating, if there are countries which are deliberately not implementing the standards, they can be warned by the FATF by giving them a notice, by placing them on notice, which is called the grey list informally. Officially, it's called jurisdiction under increased monitoring. The FATF will place these countries under enhanced monitoring, and it will give an action plan that the country has to follow within a deadline which is prescribed to them. In a given time period, these specific action plans, which are outlined by the FATF, have to be achieved by that country. Our dear neighbor Pakistan has spent a lot of time on the grey list. In the last 15 years, it has been grey listed multiple times. At least 3 times, Pakistan has been on the grey list. India, especially, has worked with partners like US and France to use the platform of FATF to highlight Pakistan's role in terror financing. Pakistan has deliberately left weaknesses in its financial and banking system to enable money laundering and terrorist financing. So India has garnered the evidence, and with the backing of US and France, we have established at FATF multiple times that Pakistan is a country which is sponsoring terrorism. So based on this, Pakistan was grey listed 3 times before it was removed from the grey list. So if any country doesn't show any progress, even after being grey listed, if they don't show any improvement, if they don't cooperate at all, then FATF can penalize them by declaring them as high risk, non cooperative jurisdictions. This invokes a call for action, and this is informally called as the blacklist of FATF. And if a country gets blacklisted, there will be serious economic consequences. Once a country is blacklisted, your sovereign credit rating will basically go down to junk status. No foreign capital will enter that country. No investor will invest a single dollar in such countries. Your trade could come to a halt. You will no longer be able to import and export because nobody would work with blacklisted countries. So this will also limit your ability. Basically, you can't access the global markets, the financial systems. You can't take loans, assistance from World Bank, IMF, these development institutions, the global development banks. None of them will give loans or assistance to these countries. Right now, there are 3 countries on the blacklist. Which are the 3 countries? Iran, North Korea, and also Myanmar. These 3 countries have been blacklisted by the FATF, declared as non cooperative jurisdictions. So there is a call for action against them. So this will cripple the economy of these nations. You will be cut off from the global economic system. You can't access international loans. You can't access international markets. You can't get foreign capital. You can't trade with others. Your sovereign credit rating will go down to junk status. So this will crash the economy of that nation. That's why FATF's penal measures are quite effective. All right. Now let's take up a practice question. This question is asking you which country was recently suspended by the FATF for violating its core principles and international commitments. It's a current affairs development. A few months ago, FATF suspended a country. Which country is it? Is it Iran? Is it Israel? Is it Russia? Is it North Korea? What's the right answer? Very good. Correct answer is Russia. Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, since Russia was in violation of the principles of UN Charter, Russia had broken its international commitments. It had violated the sovereignty of another UN member state, compromised the territorial integrity of another nation. So, on these grounds, FATF suspended Russia. Please make a note of this. So, Iran, North Korea, Myanmar have been blacklisted. Russia has been suspended. Is that clear? Now, let's move on to the next topic. Let's start with a question this time. Read the question. It's related to the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, which I mentioned in the previous segment. Consider the following statements. The Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative was launched by India in 2019. It is a treaty-based agreement. Only Indian Ocean littorals can join this initiative. Which of these statements is or are correct? Take a few seconds, read the statements carefully, and then try to answer this question. It's a moderately difficult question. You should know all the facts about Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative to answer this. So what is the right answer? Some are saying B, C, A. Basically, you're saying all the options A, B, C, D. Okay, let's discuss this topic and then we'll find out the answer. Let's talk about Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. I'll give you the answer at the end. Let's talk about the topic first. This is an India-led initiative, right? I'd given a clue as well when we spoke about this under India-Bangladesh. I mentioned the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. It's an India-led initiative. It is India which proposed and founded the initiative in 2019 during the East Asia Summit, which was held in Bangkok. East Asia Summit, it brings together 10 ASEAN nations with its 8 dialogue partners. The 8 dialogue partners of ASEAN, they interact with the 10 ASEAN members. ASEAN is a regional group of Southeast Asia. It includes 10 Southeast Asian countries. The 8 dialogue partners are China, India, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, South Korea, US, and Russia. These 8 countries, they work with ASEAN countries at the East Asia Summit. So at the East Asia Summit, India proposed and founded this initiative called Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, which was an extension of our Indo-Pacific doctrine. It was an extension of the Sagar vision of Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi has pushed the Sagar doctrine, which has now been elevated to Mahasagar. 2 months ago, when PM Modi visited Mauritius, he announced the upgradation of Sagar into Mahasagar. Sagar stood for security and growth for all in the region. Now, Mahasagar, it stands for mutual and holistic assistance with regard to security and growth for all in the region. It's an initiative mainly focused on the Indian Ocean, but now we are looking to expand this to cover the Indo-Pacific, as Indo-Pacific is the most important region geopolitically, right? So India pushed this initiative in order to promote international rules, protect the rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific. Because there is one country in particular which is threatening international rules in the Indo-Pacific. I'm referring to China. China, through its maritime claims in South China Sea, through its aggressive diplomatic and military methods, even in East China Sea, it has threatened peace and stability and disrupted the UN system itself. It has not followed the UN clause provisions, the UN Convention on Law of the Sea. It has threatened freedom of navigation. So, in order to stabilize the Indo-Pacific and enforce the rules-based order, India pushed this initiative, along with cooperation in various matters in the Indo-Pacific region. So, it's a non-treaty based voluntary arrangement. It's not based on a treaty, it's a non-treaty arrangement, voluntary arrangement for free and open Indo-Pacific, to ensure that freedom of navigation is protected, to ensure that every vessel, every flight, they enjoy freedom of navigation and overflight without being disrupted by countries like China, to ensure that rules-based order, the international rules-based system, is implemented and enforced in the Indo-Pacific. So with that intention, India founded this initiative, and it builds a sense of community amongst like-minded countries. So there are many Southeast Asian countries and countries across the Indian and Pacific Ocean who have become members of Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. Is that clear? Now, I think it's very easy to answer this. Statement 1 is correct, right? It was launched by India in 2019. Second statement is wrong. It's not a treaty-based arrangement. It's a non-treaty-based voluntary arrangement. Third statement is also wrong. It's not just Indian Ocean littorals. It's not just countries from Indian Ocean which can join. Countries from across Indo-Pacific or even beyond that can join the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. So there are countries outside of Indian Ocean as well who are part of this initiative. So third statement is also incorrect. What's the right answer? Correct answer would be option A. One only is the right answer. Understood? Now, please note down this important point. I feel this can be very, very important. Under the Indo Pacific Oceans Initiative, there are 7 pillars which have been identified for cooperation. 7 pillars have been identified, and each pillar is led by some of the member countries. For example, maritime security is a key pillar led by UK and India. India provides leadership to this pillar with United Kingdom. Second, we have maritime ecology led by Australia and Thailand. Maritime resources led by France and Indonesia. Capacity building, resource sharing led by Germany. Disaster risk reduction and management led by India and Bangladesh, because India is a pioneer in disaster management. India can provide HADR assistance, humanitarian assistance, and disaster relief across the Indo Pacific today. So, India, Bangladesh are leading this pillar on disaster risk management. Science, technology, and academic cooperation involving Italy and Singapore. They are the leaders of this pillar. Trade, connectivity, maritime transport led by Japan and US. As you can see, there are countries from outside Indo Pacific as well. There is United Kingdom, there is Italy, there is France. So it's not limited to the Indian Ocean littorals or just the Indo Pacific countries. Any interested country can voluntarily join this arrangement, which is a non treaty arrangement. Clear? So Bangladesh has recently joined this arrangement last year. So that's why the topic is important. Next, moving on, we have another multilateral arrangement in the news called the Colombo process. Let's see how many of you have heard about the Colombo process. Take up this question first and then we'll discuss the topic. A grouping known as Colombo process, seen recently in news, is a maritime security forum in the Indian Ocean region for countries dealing with piracy. It's a regional forum to protect migrant workers from South Asia, Southeast Asia region. It's a UNEP funded initiative to conserve and protect marine reserves in the Indian Ocean. It's a IMF led bailout initiative to revive crisis hit Sri Lanka's economy. What is the right answer? The Colombo process. Think about it. Many of you are saying A. I know why you are saying A. Because you're getting confused with Colombo Security Conclave. This is not Colombo Security Conclave. Colombo process is something else. It's something completely different. So A is not the right answer. It's not a maritime security forum. Correct answer is option B. It's a regional forum of South Asian and Southeast Asian countries to protect the interests of their migrant workers. See, from countries like India, from countries like Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, from Philippines, Vietnam, lot of workers go to other countries to work. They go to the Gulf region, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait. They go to Western countries. They go to many other countries to find work opportunities. And in these foreign countries, these migrant workers might be harassed, they might be abused, they might be exploited. So, to protect labor rights of these migrant workers, these South Asian and Southeast Asian countries have come together to form a regional forum known as the Colombo process. I'm not sure many of you would have heard about this, but it was in the news. Why? Because India, for the first time, has become the chair of the Colombo process. We will be leading this initiative from 2024 to 2026. That is why the topic is very, very important. It was founded in the year 2003 and it consists of 12 Asian countries from South Asia and Southeast Asia. Which are the member countries? Please make a note: Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Cambodia, China, India, Indonesia, Nepal, Pakistan, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Vietnam. All these countries significantly contribute migrant workers to other countries, especially in West Asia and in Western world, from US to Europe to various other developed economies and also the Middle Eastern economies. So these 12 countries have come together under the provisions of the International Organization for Migration. It provides technical support for this initiative. Under the UN, there is an organization that deals with migration related issues, the International Organization on Migration, IOM. It's a UN organization that focuses on migrant population, right? It focuses on their human rights. It protects migrant workers, comes out with global standards. So it is assisting the Colombo process. It's assisting these 12 countries to ensure that ILO standards are followed. The standards of International Labour Organization is followed and implemented. Protect the overseas employees from these countries. They might face exploitation from the employers. They might be duped by the middlemen, right? A lot of middlemen who try to enable foreign jobs and foreign travel. They might dupe the clients, or after they reach a foreign country, they might be forced to do very cheap labor. Their salaries may not be paid on time. They may not be given social security. Sometimes human trafficking can be carried out, where people who are taken to foreign countries in the name of a job, they might be pushed into forced labor or prostitution, etc. Or they might be forced to commit criminal activities in a foreign country. So, to protect such migrant workers, this initiative was founded. And now India has become the chair of this initiative for the first time. That's why the topic is so important. Because today, India is one of the biggest contributors of migrant labor to other countries. In almost every country in the world, you will find Indian laborers, right? Especially the blue collared workers working across the world. So, this is a platform where we can raise their concerns and issues and protect their interests. That's why this topic is so important. Next, let's move to the next topic. Let's start with a question. Consider the following statements. According to CIPRI Yearbook 2024, India's nuclear arsenal decreased compared to 2023. This again is a very difficult question. Why? If you don't know CIPRI's report, if you don't know the findings of the latest report, you can't answer such questions. CIPRI, what is CIPRI? CIPRI is a think tank based out of Stockholm, Sweden. The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. It's one of the leading think tanks on armed conflict and militarization around the world. It keeps track of the arms race which is going on. It tracks the nuclear programs of countries, how many nuclear warheads they have. So it keeps a track on military spending, military expenditure, including nuclear programs of countries. So CIPRI Yearbook is one of the important documents which is brought out every year. So last year's report, it has some interesting observations. That's why I have picked this topic. The statement one is saying, according to CIPRI report, India's nuclear arsenal has decreased compared to last year, compared to 2023. Pakistan has lesser warheads than India. Obviously, nuclear warheads. That's what the question is referring to. The last statement says China has more warheads than India. Which statements do you think is correct? Let me know the right answer. Has India's nuclear arsenal decreased in 2024 compared to 2023? Does Pakistan have lesser warheads than India? Does China have more warheads than India? So it's a very specific question. If you don't know these trends, I don't think you'll be able to answer this easily. Let's see what's the right answer. Okay. Let me give you the right answer. Let's evaluate these statements and then we'll discuss this topic in detail. Statement number one is wrong. Statement one is incorrect. India's nuclear arsenal has slightly increased in 2024. We have produced new nuclear warheads. There has been an increase in the number of warheads with India. It's not a decrease, it has increased. Statement one is wrong. Statement two is correct. Pakistan has lesser warheads than India. See, a few years ago, Pakistan actually had more warheads than India, or it was on par with India. But in 2024, India has slightly gained an edge. We have two extra warheads, two more additional warheads compared to Pakistan. So, with a small margin, India has overtaken Pakistan. Hence, Pakistan has lesser warheads than India. Statement two is correct. Statement three is also correct. Obviously, I think anybody with some common sense can say that statement three is correct. China definitely has more warheads than India. It's nearly 3 times more than India. Compared to India's nuclear arsenal, China has more than 3 times the size of India's nuclear arsenal. So, 2 and 3. Option C becomes the correct answer. So let's talk about CIPRI Yearbook 2024 and some of the key findings of the report, which can be important for the exam. Now look at the table or the infographic which is given over here. So it has listed all the 9 countries which are believed to possess nuclear weapons. You can see the P5, the 5 permanent members of UN Security Council, which are officially recognized as nuclear weapon states under the Non-Proliferation Treaty. These are the only 5 countries which are legally allowed to possess nuclear weapons as per international law, because only those countries which had nuclear weapons before 1967, only they can retain their nuclear arsenal. That's why India, Pakistan, Israel, we have rejected the NPT. We will never sign non-proliferation treaty. So India, Pakistan have developed and tested their nuclear weapons outside of non-proliferation treaty. Israel has never signed NPT, but it has never publicly announced it as a nuclear program, but it's widely believed Israel possesses nuclear weapons. Is that clear? Israel is believed to have kept it away from the world. It has never carried out a nuclear test, but it's believed that Israel possesses nuclear weapons. Then you have North Korea, the rogue state, which has developed and tested nuclear weapons, and it has done it in violation of NPT. In fact, North Korea is the only country which quit NPT. It had signed NPT, but it walked out of NPT and developed nuclear weapons today, and it's threatening Japan, South Korea, and the US. So these 9 countries today are in possession of nuclear weapons. And look at the list. Look at the number of warheads they have. Russia is right at the top with more than 4,300 warheads. Yeah, most of them are active. Majority of them can be deployed in a very short span of time. Next comes US with 3,700 warheads. Then China with 500, and according to some latest reports, it has gone up to 600. So China has somewhere between 500 to 600 nuclear warheads. Then comes Pakistan, France, and UK with 290 and 225 warheads respectively. Then comes India with 172, just 2 warheads more than Pakistan, which is at 170, followed by Israel and North Korea. So India's nuclear arsenal has actually increased from 2023 to 2024. We previously had around 164. Now it has slightly increased to 172, which gives us a slight edge over Pakistan. India has 2 extra warheads than Pakistan. So around the world, there are around 12,000 plus nuclear warheads, with 2,000 of them on high alert, meaning they have been mated with the delivery system. Out of the 12,000 odd warheads, at least 2,000 of them are mated with the delivery system, which means they're ready to be deployed. This highlights the nuclear risk for the world. There is increased risk of nuclear warfare. In the Russia-Ukraine war, Russia has repeatedly threatened the usage of nuclear weapons. That's why UPSC might ask a question on this topic. Now, India-Pakistan tensions are increasing again because of the Pahalgam terror attack. And both are nuclear-armed rivals. All these developments could lead UPSC to ask a question on the nuclear stockpile in the world. Russia has recently withdrawn from important treaties such as the New START, the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty between Russia and US, which had helped in curbing the nuclear arms race between them. After US targeted Russia with sanctions since the Ukraine conflict began, Russia has suspended its commitment under New START. It has refused to renegotiate and extend the New START, and it has also withdrawn from the CTBT. It has withdrawn its ratification of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, keeping the option open to test nuclear weapons if required. So, in general, nuclear tensions have gone up, and hence I think this data can be very important. All right, so please go through this. Remember the facts, the trends, and you should be able to answer a possible question on this topic. Now, let's look at another topic related to CIPRI again. CIPRI also brings out a report on peacekeeping missions and peacekeeping forces, which is very relevant for India. So, there was a very interesting report that was published last year in 2024. So, as of 2023, CIPRI evaluated multilateral peacekeeping operations which are going on in the world. I'm sure you would have heard about UN peacekeeping forces, how there are UN peacekeeping missions going on in Africa and around the world. There are few regional groups and alliances of different countries which are running their own peacekeeping operations in some conflict zones as well. Like, for example, let's say in Lesotho, in Ethiopia, right? In some of these African countries, coalition of African countries have formed their own regional alliance and regional groups to run peacekeeping missions on their own. So, CIPRI keeps track of these peacekeeping missions and operations in conflict zones and brings out a report. So, based on 2023 data, it published a report last year, which is relevant for India. That's why I've picked this topic. So, take up this question. According to this report of CIPRI, regional organizations were conducting more multilateral peace operations than the UN. Please understand the statement. It's saying regional organizations, regional groups of countries, they are running more peace operations compared to the UN. Is it correct or not? India was the highest contributor of military personnel for UN peacekeeping forces in 2023. Largest deployment of peacekeeping forces is in North Africa. Now, what should you do? In this question, you're asked to identify the incorrect statement. Please be very careful. UPSC might surprise you. There can be a question where you're asked to identify the incorrect statement, not the correct statement. I've seen many students go wrong here. They will know the topic, they'll know which statements are correct or not, but they will end up marking the wrong answer because they don't read the question carefully. Be very careful. That's why I'm adding this over here. You have to identify the incorrect statements. Can you tell me what's the right answer? Then we'll discuss this topic. This question is also slightly difficult. Without going through the report, without knowing the key highlights of this report, you can't answer this question. Some are saying B, A, C, D. Okay. Let's evaluate the statements one by one, and then I'll give you some important facts for the exam. Statement number one is actually correct. According to CIPRI's Multilateral Peace Operations Report, regional organizations collectively are actually running more multilateral peace operations compared to the UN. I'll give you the data as well. Don't worry. I'll come to that. But please know that statement one is correct. Regional alliances and regional organizations have more operations going on as compared to UN peacekeeping operations. Because see, this statement is referring to the number of operations. The number of peacekeeping operations are going on currently. Take all the peacekeeping operations, regional organizations are more involved compared to the UN. Second statement is also correct. India was indeed the highest contributor of military personnel for UN peacekeeping forces in the year 2023. Statement 2 is also correct. Statement 3 is wrong. Statement 3 is incorrect. Why? Largest deployment of peacekeeping forces in the world is not in North Africa. Can someone guess? Can someone tell me in which part of the world, in which region do you find the largest deployment of peacekeeping forces? As in terms of the number of operations going on, the number of military personnel that are deployed. Which region is the highest? South Africa, Central Africa? There is one student who has answered correctly. ZXCV is the username. It's actually Sub-Saharan Africa. It is Sub-Saharan Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa refers to Central Africa and parts of West, East, and Southern Africa. That collectively is often referred to as Sub-Saharan Africa region, right below the Sahara Desert, right? So in Sub-Saharan Africa is where you find the largest deployment of peacekeeping forces. So 3 is the only incorrect statement. But what's the right answer? D. Because question is asking you to identify incorrect statement. Only 3 is the incorrect statement here. Now let's talk about this report. Let's understand some key findings of this report. Now please look at the graph given over here. It's based on CIPRI's Multilateral Peace Operations Report of 2023 that was published in 2024. According to the data, you can observe here, these are the UN peacekeeping operations going on. UN was involved in around 20 peacekeeping operations. But across the world, there are more than 60 peacekeeping operations going on. And regional organizations are involved in more than 30 peacekeeping operations. Just look at the graph. Regional organizations, alliances are running 30 plus peacekeeping missions compared to the 20 missions run by the United Nations. That's why your statement one was correct. Statement one said regional groups are conducting more peacekeeping operations compared to the UN. This statement is correct because UN is conducting around 20 peacekeeping missions, whereas regional alliances and organizations are running 30 plus peacekeeping missions. But if you take the total personnel involved, the number of military personnel involved, then UN is definitely the largest entity running peacekeeping operations. That is, uh, let's say if you take each organization separately, like in Southern Africa, in Eastern Africa, there are regional alliances running peacekeeping missions. If you take each entity separately and see which organization is running the biggest of all peacekeeping efforts, it is the UN. Compared to any other organization, any other multilateral organization, United Nations is running the largest number of peacekeeping operations. Understood? When you take regional organizations cumulatively, they are running more operations than the UN. But if you single them out and see which organization is running the most number of peacekeeping missions, it is the UN. Now, India is one of the biggest contributors for UN peacekeeping missions. Since 1950s, India has been a major troop contributing country to the UN peacekeeping forces. UN peacekeeping forces are also known as the Blue Helmets. I'll tell you what is their role, what is their mandate, because that's a conceptual topic you need to understand. UPSC might ask a conceptual question on the Blue Helmets. Given the number of conflicts going on, right? There could be a possible question here. So, India has one complaint from a long time. Though we are one of the largest troop contributing countries, we don't have any decision making power in how the peacekeeping forces are deployed or how they're protected, how their safety is ensured. This decision lies with the UN Security Council. The UNSC has command over the peacekeeping forces of the UN. So UN Security Council decides about their deployment, about the safety of the peacekeeping troops. Now the concern for India is that India has made huge sacrifices. See, till date, we have contributed 290,000 peacekeepers from Indian Army and other armed forces and even the paramilitary, the CAPFs, sometimes even from state police forces. India has even deployed dedicated women contingent. India was the first country to send an entire contingent of women officers on UN peacekeeping missions. They have served in multiple conflict zones, and in 2024, we had more than 5,000 Indian personnel actively involved in UN missions in 9 missions around the world. Is that clear? So in 2023, India was the biggest contributor. The other major countries are Kenya, Bangladesh, sometimes Pakistan, sometimes even Philippines and others. Usually it's the developing, underdeveloped countries which mainly contribute troops. So as part of UN reforms, India wants to have a decision making power when it comes to UN peacekeeping forces. India is pushing for troop contributing countries to be given a say, to be given a decision making power when it comes to deployment and safety of the peacekeeping troops, because we have lost a number of peacekeepers. India has made the biggest sacrifice. Close to 180 Indian peacekeepers have been killed in the line of duty. Recently, in Democratic Republic of Congo, in DRC, 2 BSF Jawans from India were killed. So India wants accountability here. Right now, the P5 countries have sole control over peacekeeping missions because they have the veto under the UN Security Council, right? So when I say UNSC controls them, it's actually the P5, the 5 permanent members who enjoy the veto, who control the decisions related to peacekeeping forces. And they're not holding those responsible for the deaths of peacekeepers accountable. That is why India is pushing for reforms when it comes to peacekeeping missions. And troop contributing countries are pushing for this. And we have formed an initiative called the Group of Friends, the Group of Friends Initiative, to ensure that UN peacekeepers can be protected and crimes against peacekeepers can be held accountable. So today, the largest region where peacekeeping missions are going on would be Sub-Saharan Africa, right? Especially Central Africa, Eastern Africa, West Africa. This is where most of the conflicts are present, and this is where you see the highest deployment of multilateral peacekeeping forces. So this is a very data centric topic. I mean, without going to the CIPRI report, you can't answer this. So UPSC can ask such difficult questions as well. Clear? You can't blindly guess the answer here. You have to put some thought into it. You should have read about it. You should know the facts as well. Now, let me tell you what is the purpose of a peacekeeping mission. It's a conceptual topic. There can be a theoretical conceptual question based on peacekeeping. Given that India has raised its voice and tried to bring countries together to ensure the troop contributing countries have a voice when it comes to the deployment of peacekeeping forces, I think it's very important to know the purpose of a peacekeeping mission. UPSC can ask you, what are the objectives of UN peacekeeping missions? What is the stated goal? So this is clearly given over here in this particular slide, and I want you guys to make a note of it. So peacekeeping forces are deployed not to engage in combat, not to fight a war, right? They're called peacekeeping forces. The name itself tells you. They are sent basically to end a war, to bring a conflict to an end, or to maintain the ceasefire in an ongoing conflict. Now, let's say, for example, let's say hypothetically, Russia-Ukraine war comes to a halt through a ceasefire. Okay, let's say a ceasefire is worked out between Russia and Ukraine. And let's say a decision is made to deploy UN peacekeeping forces. So the UN peacekeepers, the blue helmets, will maintain the peace. They'll not fight Russia, they'll not fight Ukraine. They'll maintain the peace between both sides. They'll enforce the ceasefire. They'll report any violations. If Russia violates, Ukraine violates, they'll report it to the UN, right? They can even take action to protect civilians, to protect human rights. So peacekeepers are not sent for combat. It's not a combat mission. It's a non-combat role. It's a peacekeeping role to establish and maintain the ceasefire, to temporarily halt the conflict, or even to work out peace agreements and enforce peace arrangements so that we can bring the conflicts to an end. So, as part of this, peacekeeping forces even facilitate the political process. Let's say if there is a need for a political dialogue. Let's say a civil war has happened in a country like Sudan, and there is no future government. But at least the parties, the rebels, they've all agreed for a ceasefire. So peacekeepers will not only maintain the ceasefire and the peace, they'll facilitate talks, they'll encourage the political process, the internal political dialogue to ensure that a stable government is formed. They will protect civilians at any cost. They will protect civilians and push for disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration. They'll ensure that the armed groups, the rebel forces especially, are completely disarmed and demobilized. And eventually, they can be reintegrated. They can be brought back into the mainstream. They can be recruited into the army of that country so that the conflict not only ends, but those who are surrendering, those who are laying down their arms and ending the war, they can be given a future. They can be brought back into the mainstream. Peacekeepers also help in the conduct of elections when a conflict hit countries going towards elections. They can help in the conduct of democratic elections to ensure it's free and fair, especially where civil wars have taken place between rival factions and opposing forces. If elections are called for with a final settlement, peacekeepers will enable the conduct of free and fair elections. And finally, they uphold human rights and rule of law. They uphold international humanitarian law to protect civilians and non combatants and ensure that rule of law is maintained in a conflict zone. These are the primary tasks assigned to peacekeeping forces. Please be aware of this. Remember that infographic. There could be a conceptual question, a theoretical question as well. Now, moving on, we are going to talk about Colombo Security Conclave. Which two countries have recently joined Colombo Security Conclave and BRICS as new members, respectively? It's a slightly different question. So, there is a country which has newly joined Colombo Security Conclave as a new member. There is another country which has newly joined BRICS as a new member. This question is asking, which are these two countries that have joined Colombo Security Conclave and BRICS, respectively? Is it Thailand and Morocco? Is it Bangladesh and Indonesia? Seychelles and Venezuela? Malaysia and Turkey? Let me know what's the right answer. It's fairly simple. It's a very simple question. If you're tracking current affairs, you should know the answer to this. You should know which country has joined BRICS recently. And the best part here is even if you know one answer correctly, you can answer the entire question correctly. Let's say you know which country has joined BRICS recently or which country has joined Colombo Security Conclave. By looking at the options, you can ensure that you get the right answer. Good. Many of them are answering correctly. It is option B. Bangladesh and Indonesia is the right answer. So Bangladesh is the country which has joined Colombo Security Conclave as a member. Understood? It has recently joined Colombo Security Conclave as a member when Sheikh Hasina government was in power. Then Indonesia has joined BRICS as the latest member in January 2025. Now let's quickly understand what is Colombo Security Conclave, who are the members, what's the mandate of this organization, and we will also have a small discussion on BRICS, especially on the expansion of BRICS. Because in recent years, BRICS has added many new members. So let's talk about BRICS expansion, but before that, let's talk about Colombo Security Conclave. See, India had pushed for a maritime security initiative in the Indian Ocean, and it was established in the year 2011 between Maldives, Sri Lanka, and India. Since India is the key security provider for Sri Lanka and Maldives, we provide them with military equipment and hardware for maritime surveillance and reconnaissance. Right? We have donated military equipment as well to the Maldivian Defense Forces. We have assisted Sri Lanka to protect its exclusive economic zone. So, as part of the security relations and the defense relations, India proposed the idea that Indian Ocean countries have to work together in the field of security. And in 2011, we established what was known as the Trilateral for Maritime Security Cooperation. So, it only included three countries initially, and it was not called Colombo Security Conclave. It was just called Trilateral for Maritime Security Cooperation, including India, then Maldives, and Sri Lanka. This was a platform for the national security advisors to come together along with the entire security establishment of these countries. So, the national security advisors, the national security commissions of these countries, with the armed forces, intelligence agencies, law enforcement agencies, they would all get a platform to coordinate, cooperate, to share information, discuss with each other, and even conduct joint missions and joint operations to tackle the threats. Because don't forget, Indian Ocean is affected by multiple threats, from terrorism to piracy to organized crime of all types, drug trafficking, human trafficking, wildlife trafficking. So all types of threats are present, including disasters, where disaster assistance has to be provided. So to achieve that cooperation, India led this initiative with Sri Lanka and Maldives, established this in 2011 as the Trilateral for Maritime Security Cooperation. So this has now become the Colombo Security Conclave in 2020. It was revived and expanded by India by adding Mauritius as a new member. Mauritius also joined the initiative and it was rebranded, it was renamed as the Colombo Security Conclave because the secretariat is based out of Colombo in Sri Lanka. So Mauritius became the fourth member of this group, apart from India, Maldives, and Sri Lanka. And Bangladesh and Seychelles, they were just observers to Colombo Security Conclave. But last year, Bangladesh took a big step, a big decision to join Colombo Security Conclave as a full-time member. So it got elevated from an observer to a full-time member. Those of you who don't know the difference between observers and members, the members will have full rights in a group, in a multilateral group. A member state will enjoy full access and full rights. They can not only participate in the summits, they will have voting rights. They can initiate resolutions. They can propose agendas. Correct? So members will have full rights. Observers simply participate. They can just attend the meetings, the summits, and the events and participate and contribute to the discussion. But they can't initiate a dialogue. They can't set the agenda. They can't host the event. They will definitely not have voting rights. That's a basic difference between a member and an observer. So Bangladesh, which was an observer, has now become a full-time member. So today, Colombo Security Conclave has 5 member countries: India, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Mauritius, and Bangladesh. Seychelles is the only remaining observer right now. Clear? So it's a platform for national security cooperation. National security councils, the NSAs of these countries, along with the entire security establishment. the armed forces, the intelligence agencies, they all get a platform here to cooperate with each other to tackle the threats facing the Indian Ocean region, be it cybersecurity, tackling piracy, tackling drug trafficking, tackling terrorism and radicalization. All these issues are dealt with by the Colombo Security Conclave. Now, coming to BRICS, I'll not talk much about BRICS because we have covered this previously, and I don't expect a question on BRICS this time. But BRICS expansion, I think, can be an important topic. So, this group represents emerging economies of the world. It was founded formally in 2009 at the first BRICS summit in Yekaterinburg in Russia, when four major emerging economies came together to establish this at the summit level. The idea of these four countries forming the emerging bloc was first proposed by a well known, renowned economist, Jim O'Neill, who was the chief economist at Goldman Sachs. This idea brought Brazil, Russia, India, China together at the United Nations. And after the global recession of 2008 2009, these like minded countries came together as they opposed Western control, Western dominance of global financial systems. Your Bretton Woods institutions, World Bank and IMF, are largely controlled by US and Europe, respectively. So these countries, they mainly stand against the Western control of these institutions, how World Bank and IMF are manipulated by them, how developing countries, emerging economies don't get increased voting rights at World Bank and IMF, though they are contributing to these institutions. And they also held Western countries, especially US, responsible for the global financial crisis of 2008 2009. So in 2009, these countries founded the BRIC. It was not BRICS, it was just BRIC, because South Africa had not joined. Brazil, Russia, India, China established this group. They have taken some important steps, important initiatives to create a new financial architecture. They've established the new development bank, which counters the World Bank when it comes to providing development funds, development assistance. They have set up the contingent reserve arrangement to counter the IMF, which can provide emergency funding, which can provide bailout for countries facing a liquidity crisis. There are many other initiatives that BRIC countries have taken up. So in 2010, South Africa joined as the fifth member of the organization. That's how it became BRICS. For many years, it did not undergo any change in its membership, but recently there has been a major expansion. Given the significance of this group, many emerging economies, developing countries, they have shown interest to join this organization. And there are many countries waiting in the list. So 2023 onwards, new countries have been added one after the other. In 2023, the BRICS countries approved membership for some new countries and they formally joined the organization in 2024. So, which are the countries that joined in 2024? Egypt, Ethiopia from Africa, Iran and UAE from West Asia, even Saudi Arabia and Argentina had been invited for membership. BRICS countries had approved the membership of Saudi Arabia and Argentina as well. But however, please note down, very important, they have not joined BRICS yet. Argentina has rejected the membership because there was a change in government, a change in leadership, a change in ideology of the Argentinian government under the new president, Javier Milei. He has rejected BRICS membership because the new government in Argentina is closer to the West, closer to the US. Javier Milei is very close to Donald Trump. And I'm sure you know Trump has threatened BRICS countries with tariffs. If they push de-dollarization, if they target America's dominance on the global financial system, Trump has threatened to hit back at the BRICS countries with high tariffs. So Argentina is a country which is now aligned with US completely. It opposes BRICS. So because of the new government and the new leadership, Argentina rejected the membership. It has not joined. It has rejected the membership. Saudi Arabia is playing it safe. It's trying to balance both sides because Saudi Arabia is an ally of the US. It's also close to Russia. It's close to India. It's close to China. So Saudi Arabia is playing on all sides. So it doesn't want to instigate the US unnecessarily by joining BRICS. Though initially it was interested and BRICS countries approved the membership, it has not joined formally. Please understand this. You might go wrong here. In fact, a lot of them make mistakes in this regard. Saudi Arabia has not joined yet. It has not formally joined. It has not accepted the invitation. So in 2024, only Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, UAE joined as members. And 2 months ago, in January 2025, Indonesia has become the newest member of BRICS. Understood? I hope the topic is clear. I hope everybody has understood this clearly. Now, coming to the next topic, the next question. I hope you know UPSC asks questions based on important reports, important indices that are published, especially those related to some important international organizations. So, take up this topic, the World Wildlife Crime Report, which was in the news last year. It is published by which organization? Is it UNEP, IUCN, UN Office on Drugs and Crime, or World Wildlife Fund? What is the right answer? Which of these organizations published this report known as the World Wildlife Crime Report? This report, I'll tell you what it does. It basically tracks wildlife trafficking, the threat posed by organized crime to the wildlife. So, which organization brings out this important report? What's the right answer? Most of them are saying C, but some are saying D as well. Just because there is wildlife, don't assume it is published by World Wildlife Fund. Don't make such random guesses, right? Okay, I'll give you the right answer. It is published by the UNODC, the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. It's not published by UNEP, IUCN, or WWF. It's published by the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. So let's quickly cover some important facts related to this UN institution, which can be relevant for the exam. The UNODC has been in news for many other developments as well, with regard to drug trafficking from Afghanistan, with regard to various organized crime emanating from the Southeast Asia region, especially from Myanmar and Cambodia. UNODC has been in the news, right? So you need to be aware of the basic facts related to this organization. It was established in 1997. Back then, it had a slightly different name, but this new name was assigned in 2002, the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. The name itself tells you what is the mandate, what's the objective of this UN organization. It's mainly meant to tackle all types of organized crime, be it drug trafficking, cyber crimes, corruption, which includes money laundering, or arms trafficking, human trafficking, wildlife trafficking is also part of its mandate. So it is a member of the UN Development Group, part of the UNDG, and it functions out of the UN office in Vienna, Austria. That's where UNODC is headquartered. It publishes two very important reports. Make a note of this. The World Drug Report. The World Drug Report, it contains details about narcotics production, narcotics trade, trafficking routes, and it implements all the international conventions related to corruption, related to narcotics and psychotropic substances, and other forms of organized crime, transnational crime. So UNODC plays a very important role in tackling these criminal offenses, these transnational crimes. And it also publishes a report, the World Wildlife Crime Report on wildlife trafficking. Clear? So this is another important topic. Next, this question is related to the Global Cybersecurity Index. It is released by which of these organizations? The Global Cybersecurity Index was in the news. It is very relevant from India's context. That's why I think the topic can be very important. So, who publishes the Global Cybersecurity Index? Is it World Bank or UN Security Council or ITU, International Telecom Union, or Interpol? Who publishes the Global Cybersecurity Index? It's an indicator of the preparedness of a country with regard to its cybersecurity measures. So, what's the right answer? Okay, again, most of you are divided. Let me tell you the right answer and then we'll discuss the topic as well. It is the ITU, International Telecommunication Union, also called the International Telecom Union. ITU has been in the news repeatedly. It published the Global Cybersecurity Index, on which India has got a very good ranking. India has performed very well on this index. That's why the topic is important. And also, India has pushed for a leadership role at the ITU recently. We have been pushing for an Indian official from Department of Telecom to be appointed as the director of the Radio Communication Bureau at ITU, which sets the global standards for radio communication. So India is pushing for a leadership role as well. So in that context, I think ITU is important for the exam. Please note down, it's a specialized agency of the UN. It is one of the specialized agencies of the United Nations. It's part of the UN system, the UN family, and it is one of the oldest organizations in the world. Its former entity, the International Telegraph Union, it was set up in 1865. It basically laid the standards for telegraph based communication. So, with the evolution of telecommunication, electronic communication, the International Telegraph Union became the International Telecom Union. So, it is based out of Geneva, Switzerland, where it is headquartered. And what is the role of this organization? It mainly allocates the radio frequency spectrums, satellite orbits as well. So before ISRO, NASA, or any space agency or a space company, before they launch satellites into orbit, the orbit designation has to be approved by ITU. If we decide on a certain orbit for a satellite, we have to request ITU for permission, for approval. So it will check to ensure that there are no other satellites in the same orbit or in the nearby orbit to prevent a collision. It ensures the safety of space traffic. It regulates all the communication related standards, be it your telecom networks like 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, 6G networks, the new forms of wireless communication which is coming up, right? All the standards are laid down by the ITU to ensure that across the world, networks and companies and devices can interconnect with each other. So this common standard is created for radio spectrum and frequency allocation, even for GPS based services, broadcasting services, for satellite orbits, right? It's all decided by the ITU. It's a very, very important organization, and India is one of the members. India is one of the members. We joined long ago, and we actually contribute to the work of ITU. Right now, we are pushing for a leadership role to have an Indian official to head the Radio Communication Bureau so that we can directly contribute to the radio standards which are set, which will become global standards. Now, what is this Global Cybersecurity Index? Why is it important? In the latest index that was published in 2024, India has achieved Tier 1 status. See, the ITU started publishing this index in 2015. Since 2015, ITU has been publishing Global Cybersecurity Index. It studies the cybersecurity preparedness of different countries. It uses different parameters. Five pillars are used, five parameters are used. The legal measures, whether a country has a law against cyber crimes and cyber threats. It looks at the technical measures implemented. What specific cybersecurity measures have implemented by a country in the government sector, in the private sector? How a country is protecting its networks, its servers and systems? What organizational measures and initiatives have been taken up? Like India has CERT in, and we also have a dedicated critical information infrastructure protection center to protect critical information infrastructure. So we have specific organizations and institutions in the country to deal with cybersecurity. What capacity has been developed and built? Do you have the manpower? Do you have the human resource required, the technical skills needed? And is this country cooperating with other countries? So these five parameters or five pillars are used, based on which a country is ranked, placed in one of the five tiers: tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. The best performing countries, which have the best cybersecurity measures, they fall under tier 1. So India has achieved a big milestone. For the first time, we have been rated as a tier 1 country with regard to cybersecurity measures. That shows the improvement India has made when it comes to cybersecurity. So now India enjoys the tier 1 status with other major military powers and major developed economies. So that's why I think this topic is very relevant, very, very important. Now, coming to the last section, we have some treaties, conventions, and summits. We also have security related topics and some military exercises. So, a few more topics to go, lots of questions to come up. Let's take a 10 minutes break. We'll come back in 10 minutes around 8:30. We'll come back around 8:30 and we will wrap up this marathon session very soon after we cover these remaining topics and questions. Take a short break, refresh yourselves, and come back. I'll see you at 8:30. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the session. So, in this marathon session on IR current affairs, we have already covered India's bilateral relations. We have discussed about international organizations and multilateral and regional groupings. Now, we are moving to the next section where we discuss some important treaties, conventions, and summits that have been in the news. So, let's start with the first question here in this segment. Please read the question carefully, answer this, then we'll discuss a very, very important topic. The first ever legally binding international treaty on artificial intelligence, on AI, was adopted recently, and it's an initiative of which grouping? Is it an initiative by the European Union, or is it an initiative of Council of Europe? Is it a UN initiative, or none of the above? What's the right answer? Recently, the first ever legally binding international treaty was brought out on AI. This initiative was launched by which organization? That is your question. Most of you are saying European Union. That's what I had expected. So, European Union is not the right answer. It is incorrect. The correct answer is option B, the Council of Europe. Many students get confused between Council of Europe and European Union. Please understand both are different organizations. The European Union is a political economic union of 27 European countries. Understood? They have created a free market for the movement of goods, services, and investments. Some of them are part of the Schengen zone, which provides soft border controls, creates open borders, promoting free movement of people as well. So, European Union is a completely different organization, a political and economic union. The Council of Europe is a different entity altogether. Today, we'll study and understand what is Council of Europe. But before that, let's talk about the first ever legally binding international treaty on AI. It is called the Framework Convention on Artificial Intelligence. The Framework Convention on Artificial Intelligence. This treaty was pushed by the Council of Europe and it has been adopted last year. Understood? So, this convention, what does it do? This convention is trying to regulate AI technologies, restrict harmful, dangerous AI technologies which can threaten human rights, which can disrupt democracies, which can undermine the very civilized nature of our societies. So, the large scale adoption of AI is making it easy today to spread fake news, to spread misinformation, to carry out disinformation campaigns, to spread propaganda, to even carry out radicalization or even disrupt elections and manipulate elections. Also, AI tools, which are fed with data, especially generative AI tools, they learn from the real world data. And all the biases which are present in our real world will be reflected in the AI algorithms as well. For example, facial recognition technologies, which are used by police, intelligence, and security agencies, they have shown a bias against minorities, against, let's say, Muslims or people of color, right? Then AI tools have shown a bias, a gender based bias, where women might be discriminated by AI tools and AI platforms. So, this could undermine human rights, it could undermine rule of law, it could threaten democracies as well. So, to ensure that these concerns are addressed, the first ever legally binding international treaty on AI has been adopted by Council of Europe. It seeks to tackle misinformation, algorithmic discrimination, the bias of the algorithm, and any threat to public institutions, to national security, which might emerge from AI. So many countries have signed and joined this treaty, and you can see the countries which are signatories of this convention. The members of Council of Europe, along with some other countries, have joined this convention on AI. The major countries which are part of it includes United States, Japan, Israel, entire European Union with Canada, UK, Switzerland, and other European countries. So, Council of Europe is a Europe based organization that was founded in 1949 after the end of the Second World War. Because the two world wars, it had led to destruction of democracy, it had led to destruction of rule of law. Fundamental rights had been compromised. Human rights had been violated on a massive scale. So to address these concerns, Council of Europe was formed and established in 1949 to ensure that democracies are upheld, rule of law is established and maintained, and human rights, fundamental rights are protected. So with that objective, Council of Europe was set up and it is headquartered in Strasbourg, France. There are 46 member countries. You can see the entire list of members over here. So obviously there is an overlap between EU members and Council of Europe members. Understood? The primary focus of Council of Europe is to protect democracy, protect rule of law, uphold human rights and fundamental rights. So this convention, the Framework Convention on AI, is going to be very, very important for your exam. So take up this practice question. We are moving on. So please take up this practice question. Consider the following statements. The UN Convention Against Cybercrime, which was also in the news, it was adopted by UN General Assembly in 2024. It is legally binding on all UN member states once it comes into force. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime will act as the secretariat for this convention. So this is the second topic under this segment where we are covering treaties, conventions, and summits. So tell me, what is the right answer? The UN Convention Against Cybercrime, which is another big development that happened last year. Was it adopted by UNGA? Is it legally binding on all the member states? And is UNODC responsible for implementing it? Is it the secretariat for this convention? Most of them are saying C is the right answer. Okay, let's talk about the convention and then I think you'll get to know what's the answer. We'll discuss the answer later. So last year, the UN General Assembly achieved a very big milestone. For the first time, we have a global convention today on cybercrime. Is that clear? Before this, the only international convention regarding cybercrime was the Budapest Convention. Have you heard of the Budapest Convention? Can someone tell me which organization brought out the Budapest Convention, which is also a convention against cybercrime? But it was not truly global. It was initiative of one particular organization. Which organization brought out the Budapest Convention against cybercrime? Can someone answer this? Let's see if you have heard about the Budapest Convention. Even this is related to India. That's why. European Union, no. It's again the Council of Europe. Council of Europe, which we just studied. It had brought out the Budapest Convention, which was the only convention we had on cybercrime at the global level. The UN had no convention until last year. Budapest Convention is slightly problematic for India, so India has not signed the Budapest Convention. The Intelligence Bureau has strongly opposed India's entry into Budapest Convention because it fears that under the obligations of Budapest Convention, we will be forced to integrate our cyber systems, our networks with the European countries and Western powers, which could be a security compromise. So on security grounds, India has not joined the Budapest Convention. So finally, the UN was pushing for a global convention against cybercrime. The initiative started in 2021. And after many rounds of negotiations, finally last year, under the UN General Assembly, the first ever UN Convention against cybercrime has been adopted. So 193 member states have signed this convention through consensus. It is yet to be ratified. It's yet to come into force. But please understand, it's not legally binding. It is not legally binding on everyone. It provides certain standards to be followed by the countries, the UN members, to tackle cybercrimes. This convention mandates that every member country should bring out a law, a domestic legislation, a national law. For example, right now, we have the IT Act, the Information Technology Act of 2000, which is our primary legal tool against cybercrimes in the country. So this convention mandates that every country should have a domestic legislation defining cyber crimes, providing punishment for cyber crimes, providing legal framework which is needed to tackle cyber crimes, to investigate them, to arrest the accused and prosecute them and punish them. So domestic legislation is being recommended through this convention. It recommends international cooperation because you cannot tackle cyber crimes without global cooperation. Cyber crimes are generally transnational in nature. The cyber criminals might be sitting in some country. They might be targeting victims in different countries through proxy servers and VPNs. They would be masking their identity, concealing their location and their IP address. So sometimes it is difficult and almost impossible to trace the origin of a cyber crime or a cyber attack. So international cooperation is necessary, and the UN Convention is recommending that the member states have to provide for international cooperation. They have to share data, share information with each other, respect each other's sovereignty, and ensure that the world together combats cyber crimes. Because cyber crimes today have become extremely deadly. They not only steal banking information like your username, passwords, credit card details, there could be identity theft, digital arrest, and the newer scams which have come up through various social media platforms. There are entire scam centers, organized cartels which are running cybercrime cartels which are duping the victims around the world. So, tackling these crimes, which are transnational, organized in nature, requires international cooperation between governments, between law enforcement and intelligence agencies. So, this is being recommended through the UN Convention. There is special focus on child protection because children are very vulnerable in the cyberspace, on the internet, particularly on social media platforms. Child pornography is a very serious offense, and this convention pays attention to all these concerns that emanate because of cyber crimes. Many children around the world, they have been duped by pedophiles to commit sexual acts online or to record pornographic material and circulate and sell them for profit on the dark net. Child pornography is something which is taken very seriously by countries around the world, and the UN Convention Against Cybercrime provides for certain recommendations in this regard. And it also focuses on protecting human rights because cyber crimes can violate human rights today. Identity theft will compromise your right to privacy. Your basic fundamental rights could be compromised. So, upholding human rights, protecting human rights from cyber crimes is also a core feature of the UN Convention. I'm mentioning this because these are the highlights, these are the key provisions of the UN Convention based on which a question can be asked. So, all the member states by consensus have signed the UN Convention. It is yet to come into force. It has been opened for signature. Right after signatures, it will go for ratification by the respective countries. Once the minimum number of countries have signed and ratified, then it will come into force. Maybe by the end of this year or maximum by next year, UN Convention Against Cybercrime will come into full force. So it will be implemented and monitored by the UNODC, the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, which we studied a few minutes ago. This is what you need to know. Now, based on this, I think all of you can provide me the right answer. Statement 1 is correct. Statement 3 is correct. 2 is not correct. It's not legally binding. Clear? So 1 and 3 only. Option C is the right answer. So please make a note of this. It's another important convention which was in the news. Now, moving on to the next topic, there was a very important AI related summit which was held that has been in the news since the last few months. So this question is related to the series of AI summits which has taken place. So let me see if you guys know about this, if you have heard about this. Let's take up this question and then we'll discuss the topic. Consider the following statements. There have been 3 AI summits that have been held till date at the global level. The first AI safety summit was held at Bletchley Park in United Kingdom. India recently co-chaired the third AI Action Summit with Japan. This is your question. Can you tell me which of these statements is or are correct? What's the right answer? Some are saying C, but some are saying B. So there is a tight race between B and C. Okay, let's check the statements one by one. I'll give you the answer and we can discuss the topic later. There have been 3 AI summits. Statement 1 is correct. 3 AI summits have been held at the global level. The first one was held at Bletchley Park in United Kingdom. It mainly focused on AI safety, how to ensure AI doesn't become dangerous to mankind, how to prevent hazardous AI algorithms from being developed, from being deployed. That was the focus of the Bletchley Park Summit, which was hosted by United Kingdom. It was UK which launched this initiative called AI Summit. See, Bletchley Park is of great historical significance. Those who are lovers of history, they would know about Bletchley Park. This is where UK's digital intelligence apparatus was based out of during the World War era. It was at Bletchley Park where the UK intelligence, the British intelligence, essentially, they managed to crack and decipher the encrypted codes of the Nazis. There are many popular movies, documentaries made on this as well. This is where British analysts, mathematicians, researchers, intelligence officers worked collectively to break the Enigma code of the Nazis, to break into Nazi communication, which was a turning point, a critical turning point during the World War. So, at this historical location, UK hosted the first AI safety summit. India was a major participant. The focus was on ensuring the safety of AI technologies, ensuring that hazardous, dangerous AI tools are not developed and deployed. Statement 2 is also correct. The second AI summit, it was hosted by South Korea. It was held in Seoul, in South Korea. That's where the second AI summit took place. But there was no major outcome as such. So just know that the second AI summit was hosted by South Korea at Seoul. The third AI summit, called the AI Action Summit, it was recently hosted by India along with France, not Japan. Just few weeks ago, India, France together co-chaired the third AI summit, the AI Action Summit, which focused on the action that needs to be taken to regulate AI technologies. So third one is incorrect here. So what's the correct answer? 1 and 2 only. Option B becomes the right answer. So please focus on this topic. Topics related to the AI treaty which we studied, the AI summit, and the Convention Against Cybercrime. These are new developments. Both both these topics which we have covered on AI and cybersecurity are very important. Right? We've discussed 3 topics in total. Right? If you take the 2 conventions we covered before and now the summit, all the 3 are very important. So please pay attention to this topic. To go through these points, we have already discussed what is the AI summit, where it was held, what's the outcome. So please go through these points again and make use of this slide so that you are prepared for any possible question on this topic. Now, coming to the next segment, we will look at some topics from internal security as well, which is connected with international relations. Why? Because, see, most of you might think internal security is only for mains, which is true. But last year, UPSC surprised everyone. It asked 3 questions in prelims from internal security. So let's not let's ensure we don't leave anything, right? Let's not be complacent and leave any important topic. Let's cover the security related topics as well, which were connected with international relations. India has adopted a joint doctrine for cyberspace operations, for cyber warfare. This is indeed a big development. The CDS, the Chief of Defense Staff, in fact, one of the questions last year was on the CDS, the Chief of Defense Staff. The Chief of Defense Staff, who's the highest ranking military officer in the country, that is General Anil Chauhan, right now, announced the launch of a joint doctrine for cyber warfare, for cyberspace operations. See, today, the cyber domain has emerged as the 5th dimension of warfare. The traditional dimensions of warfare are land, air, and water. The 4th dimension of warfare is space, outer space. When the space race began, when countries developed military capabilities in space, Space became the fourth dimension of warfare. Today, cyberspace has become the fifth dimension of warfare. Countries have dedicated space-based armed forces, for space-focused armed forces. Countries like US, Russia, Israel, China, they're all pioneers in cyber warfare. They have developed offensive and defensive cyber capabilities. Look at China. It's able to hack into most of the networks and servers to steal data, to steal classified information, to steal research material. US and Israel have carried out offensive cyber operations targeting Iran's nuclear weapons program. Russia has used cyber war very effectively against Ukraine, developing very deadly malwares from ransomwares to Trojans to computer worms. And all these countries have been pioneering cyber warfare based research and cyber warfare based operations, military operations. So India is also catching up. India has set up the Defense Cyber Agency, which was approved in 2018 by the Modi government. The establishment of a dedicated military agency was recommended by the Naresh Chandra Task Force that was set up by the Prime Minister Manmohan Singh government, the UPA government. Naresh Chandra Task Force on Security Reforms submitted a very important report in 2011 recommending various reforms in the security establishment. One recommendation was the establishment of a cyber command, a dedicated cyber command, a cyber armed force to deal with cyber wars, not only to defend India against cyber warfare, but also to launch offensive operations if necessary against the enemy. This suggestion was initially provided by Kargil Review Committee, which was set up after the Kargil War. It was headed by Dr. K. Subramaniam, a legendary strategic thinker, civil servant, also the father of the current foreign minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar. So KRC also spoke about the need for dedicated armed forces for cyber warfare, space warfare, etc. Naresh Chandra Task Force streamlined the recommendations and gave a very specific recommendation to set up a dedicated cyber command. The Modi government accepted the recommendations, but however, even though it approved the establishment of a defense cyber agency, it was not given the command status. So today, the Defense Cyber Agency is a tri-service agency that will draw personnel from Army, Navy, and Air Force. It functions under the IDS, Integrated Defense Staff, where the three services integrate together for joint operations. And it reports to the CDS, the Chief of Defense Staff. So this was one of the big defense reforms introduced by India. Along with this, we also set up a defense space agency for space warfare. There is a dedicated defense space agency for space warfare, which has been set up. Approved in 2018, it started functioning from 2019. It's based out of Bengaluru, whereas the Defense Cyber Agency is based out of Delhi. All these are tri-service agencies drawing from Army, Navy, and Air Force. We have also set up a Special Forces Division, Armed Forces Special Forces Division, that brings all the special forces together. The Para Special Forces of the Army, the Garud of the Indian Air Force, the Marcos of the Navy. They've all been brought together under a tri-service division, the Armed Forces Special Forces Division, to integrate all the special forces operations in the country. So Defense Cyber Agency is responsible for cyber warfare. It has been developing offensive defensive cyber weapons for military application. It has been working on a cyber warfare doctrine, and the joint doctrine for cyberspace operations has been developed and finalized, which was launched by the Chief of Defense Staff. So this doctrine provides the roadmap and a set of guidelines. It establishes the protocols for cyber warfare. If at all India is attacked through cyber methods from its enemies, or if at all India has to launch offensive cyber war against an enemy, it is the Defense Cyber Agency which will lead those operations. And this doctrine provides the protocols and the standard procedures to be followed. That's why it's a very important document which has been brought out. Of course, it's a classified document. It's not available for the public domain. So we don't know the exact details, but It was adopted. It was announced publicly that a joint cyberspace operations doctrine has been brought out. That's why the topic is very important. Now, take up this practice question. Exercise Cyber Suraksha 2024 was organized by which organization? Was it organized by CERT-IN, Computer Emergency Response Team India, or I4C, the Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center, or the Defense Cyber Agency, or the DRDO? Which organization conducted exercise Cyber Suraksha 2024? This was in the news, in current affairs. Some are saying C and B. The correct answer is C. Defense Cyber Agency conducted Cyber Suraksha, which is a defense focused, military focused exercise to ensure cyber security in the armed forces, to check our preparedness for cyber warfare. Is that clear? Now, CERT-IN is a civilian agency. CERT-IN, Computer Emergency Response Team India, it functions under Ministry of Electronics and IT. It gets the mandate from the IT Act. So CERT-IN is the nodal institution for protecting the Indian cyberspace from all types of cyber attacks. But it's a civilian agency, whereas Defense Cyber Agency is a military agency meant to deal with cyber warfare. Whereas CERT-IN mainly deals with cyber crimes, the new kinds of cyber threats, new malwares which are emerging. Then we also have I4C, Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center. It has been set up under Ministry of Home Affairs to tackle cyber crimes, to coordinate with state government, state police, and ensure that we counter cyber crimes. So these are different cyber security based institutions that we have. CERT-IN, I4C, Defense Cyber Agency. We also have the National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center to protect the critical information infrastructure of the country, to protect the computer and IT systems which run our critical infrastructure like airports, railways, the banking and financial markets and systems, critical government institutions, right? Our seaports, power plants, the operation of our dams. It's all controlled through computers, cyber based systems. So that constitutes critical information infrastructure of the country. Any attack on your critical information infrastructure could cripple the country itself, because these facilities, they are the backbone of the nation. So to protect the critical information infrastructure from cyber attacks and cyber wars, we have a dedicated institution called NCIIPC, which has been set up under NTRO, the National Technical Research Organization. What is NTRO? NTRO is a premier technical intelligence agency of India, which carries out technical intelligence based gathering and interception. It was initially under RAW. When it was set up, it was under RAW, under Research and Analysis Wing, which is our foreign intelligence agency. But recently, it has been separated from RAW. Now it directly reports to the National Security Advisor. So NTRO specializes in technical intelligence, intercepting all forms of digital electronic communication, be it internet-based communication, satellite-based communication. So NTRO has that kind of capabilities. So under NTRO, we have NCIIPC. Is that clear? So the mandate is to protect the critical information infrastructure. Then we also have the National Cyber Crime Coordination Center. National Cyber Coordination Center under CERT-IN to achieve coordination during cyber attacks, during cyber threats against Indian cyberspace with various stakeholders and entities. Because if India is ever brought under a major cyber attack, right, it could be just a malware or it could be a state-sponsored attempt. CERT-IN will take the lead role to defend the Indian cyberspace. The military phase of the operations will be handled by Defense Cyber Agency, but there will be involvement of NCIIPC and many other organizations, the armed forces, the intelligence agencies, important ministries, even the private sector will be involved. The internet service providers, the telecom service providers, right? The important tech companies which can offer support. They will all be part of this coordinated effort to protect India from cyber attacks. And it is NCCC which will achieve the coordination between them. The National Cyber Coordination Center under CERT-IN will coordinate with these different stakeholders. So please remember this, it's very important. Next, there were few weapons in the news. Based on this, a defense related question can come up. So it's a match the following type of question. I want you guys to be familiar with this format as well. On the left, we have a list of weapons which were in the news. On the right, there is a description with regard to the type of weapon it is. So, can you check whether the pairs are correctly matched or not? Which of these pairs are correctly matched? Nagastra has been described as a suicide drone, a kamikaze drone. Rudram 2 has been described as a ballistic missile. Javelin has been described as an anti tank missile. So, which of the pairs is or are correct? Which of them are correctly matched? Let me know the answer, then I'll explain what these weapon systems are and why they are in news. Some are saying C, but some are saying D. Okay, let me give you the right answer. First one is correctly matched. Nagastra is a indigenously developed drone. It is a suicide drone meant for a suicide mission. It has been developed in coordination with India's private sector, and it has been inducted into the Indian Army. It is the first indigenous suicide drone. See, today, in the conflicts that are going on, we have seen the effective usage of drones. Drone based attacks have been quite efficient, they have been disruptive. Look at how Ukraine has employed drones against Russia, how Russia has used drones against Ukraine, or how Israel has used drones in the ongoing war in Gaza, how the Houthis have targeted Israel with drones. So, armed drones have changed the very face of warfare today, and especially kamikaze drones, the suicide drones, which carry explosives and crash into the target. They are very effective, and India also is learning from the changing tactics in warfare, and we are adopting suicide drones for such missions. You also have something called swarm drones, where a fleet of drones operate in a swarm. They all coordinate and operate together. So, with these developments, India has indigenously developed Nagastra, the first suicide drone of India, kamikaze drone. Second pair is incorrect. Rudram 2 is not a ballistic missile. Rudram 2 is not a ballistic missile. It is a air to surface missile mainly meant for the fighter aircraft, the fighter jets. It's a air to surface missile for ground attack. The Sukhoi 30 has tested out Rudram 2. It has been successfully tested. It's an air to surface missile which will be inducted into the Indian Air Force. Then coming to Javelin, third one, it is correctly matched. It's an anti tank weapon, it's an anti tank guided missile, ATGM. But it's not an Indian weapon, it's an American weapon. It has been designed and developed by an American defense company, and India is looking to procure the Javelin. That's why the topic was in news. When PM Modi visited US, there have been discussions, advanced discussions on procuring Javelin, which is a anti-tank guided missile. It can play a decisive role in tank battles with Pakistan or with China. So 1 and 3 are correct. Right answer is option D. So I hope you have taken note of all these weapon systems that were in news. Also note down, India has signed a deal with the US to procure Striker vehicles. Striker vehicles are basically armored vehicle systems, right? They are used by land based forces, infantry forces. It helps in protecting the troops in a conflict zone. It enables their easy movement in a conflict zone. And these vessels or these vehicles essentially, they are all terrain. They can easily move around in difficult terrain as well. So India has signed a deal with the US to procure the Striker armored vehicles as well. Now, coming to the last section of today's marathon session, the important military exercises that were in the news. I always get a lot of messages, questions from students regarding military exercises. They find it difficult to cover them. See, first of all, don't worry too much about this topic. If at all a question comes, maximum one or maybe two questions will come based on this. Last year, we did get a question on military exercise. Yes, the topic is important. So you can't sit and read about each and every military exercise. There are hundreds of them. So what I have done, I've carefully gone through the last 12 months of current affairs, identified only the important military exercises which can be relevant for the exam. So I've given the entire list with some basic facts Let's go through them quickly and we can close the session for today. The first military exercise, which I think is important, is GIMEX. It's a bilateral maritime exercise between India and Japan. It was in the news. Apart from GIMEX, India, Japan also have other exercises such as the Shinyu Maitri. The Shinyu Maitri is a Air Force exercise between India and Japan, whereas GIMEX is a naval exercise. So we also have a army exercise. Can you find out the name? Can you find out the name of India Japan army based exercise? Very good. Rakesh Gowda has already answered. Dharma Guardian. Dharma Guardian is the army exercise, Shinyu Maitri is the air force exercise, and GIMEX is the naval exercise. Because India Japan defense relations are very important and it's constantly in the news. So I feel this topic is relevant. Next, OPEX. It's an air force exercise between India and Egypt. India has really stepped up military relations with Egypt. I feel it is important because Egypt is looking to procure some Indian defense and military equipment. We are pitching the BrahMos, we are pitching LCA Tejas, we are pitching Indian missiles as well, and defense radars. So Egypt could become a major buyer of Indian weapons in the future. So in that regard, I feel HOPEX is important. It's an air force exercise between India and Egypt. Then Surya Kiran. Surya Kiran is an exercise between India and Nepal, between the two armies, the Indian army and the Nepalese army. Nepal also has an exercise with China called Sagar Mata. Sagar Mata is the army exercise between Nepalese army and the Chinese PLA. Next, La Perouse. Please mark this topic. I feel this is very, very important. It is a multilateral naval exercise organized by France in the Indo-Pacific. See, France is an Indo-Pacific power as well. Don't think France is just a European power. Because even today, France has overseas territories in Indian Ocean and in the Pacific Ocean. Near East Africa, there is a French territory, the French Reunion or La Reunion. In South Pacific, away from Australia, New Zealand, France has island territories. So there are French territories present even today where France has sovereignty in Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean. So it is a major Indo-Pacific power. It conducts this multilateral naval exercise mainly to stabilize the choke points, that is the Malacca Strait, the Sunda Strait and Lombok Strait. All the three straits are important shipping lanes that connect Indian Ocean with the Pacific Ocean. Please open your atlas, open a map. Locate Malacca Strait, Sunda Strait, and Lombok Strait. These are critical shipping lanes and choke points that link Indian Ocean with the Pacific. So, to stabilize these shipping lanes and trade routes, France conducts this multilateral exercise, and India is also a participant with these countries. Next, Kaz Ind. The name itself tells you it's an exercise between India and Kazakhstan. It's an army exercise. I feel it can be important because we have been stepping up our military relations with Central Asian countries, especially with Kazakhstan. Then another important military exercise, which was recently held, IKME, the Africa India Key Maritime Engagement, that was launched this year. That's why this topic is more important. It was recently launched just a few days ago. It was co hosted by India with Tanzania. Indian Navy led this initiative in line with our Sagar Mahasagar vision. And Tanzania co hosted this event at Dar es Salaam, which is in Tanzania. So many African countries, which are located in Eastern Africa, Southern Africa, and in Western Indian Ocean, they participated in this multilateral naval exercise focused on maritime security in the Indian Ocean. So Comoros, Djibouti, where China has a naval base near the Bab el Mandeb Strait, was a participant. Kenya, Madagascar, Mauritius, Mozambique, Seychelles, South Africa, and of course the two host countries, India and Tanzania. These countries have hosted IKME military exercise, a naval exercise. It clearly establishes India's military footprint in Africa, in western part of Indian Ocean. Next, India, US have many military exercises which can be important. Let's go one by one. Yudh Abhyas between Indian Army and the US Army. Rimpak and Malabar. These are multilateral naval exercises. Malabar includes the Quad countries. Initially, Malabar was just a bilateral exercise between Indian Navy and US Navy, but it has been elevated by including Japan and Australia as well. So, India, Japan, Australia, and US participate in the Malabar exercise. So, basically, the Quad members have a naval exercise called Malabar. RIMPAC is a multilateral exercise hosted by the US Navy, where the rim countries of the Pacific Ocean are invited. So a lot of navies from North America, South America, and Southeast and East Asia are invited. Indian Navy is also a participant in the RIMPAC naval exercise, which is hosted by US Navy. Then COPE India is a bilateral Air Force exercise between Indian Air Force and US Air Force. Red Flag is a multilateral Air Force exercise hosted by US Air Force. Many American allies are invited along with India. So Indian Air Force participates in the Red Flag exercise. Tiger Triumph was recently held. It is the first ever tri-service exercise between India US, meaning all three forces participate: Army, Navy, Air Force. And this time, US even brought the Space Force, which is a dedicated armed force for space warfare. So all the services, all the armed services participate in the Tiger Triumph exercise, including the space-based armed forces. Vajra Prahar between the special forces of India and US. The US Navy SEALs, the Delta Force, they participate with India's Para SF, Marcos and Garud in this special force exercise. Then we have Tarkash, a counter-terrorism exercise between India's elite counter-terrorist force, the NSG, the National Security Guards, and American Special Forces. So these are the various military exercises, security-based exercises that we have with the United States. Then Desert Flag, a multilateral Air Force exercise hosted by United Arab Emirates. The latest edition of Desert Flag is currently going on. It started recently, it will continue for a few more days. And Indian Air Force is a regular participant. It highlights the close military relations between India and UAE. And many allies of UAE are invited, such as US, United Kingdom, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, France, Germany, Australia, Qatar. All these major powers participate. It's one of the biggest Air Force exercises which is held in UAE. So, exercise Desert Flag. India is a participant here. Then, coming to India, Saudi Arabia, the defense military relations are transforming of late. We have launched new military exercises with Saudi Arabia. I feel this topic is very important because PM Modi has recently visited Saudi Arabia. Correct? So, we have a naval exercise which was launched very recently last year, Al Mohed Al Hindi. It's a newly launched naval exercise. Two rounds, two editions of this exercise has been held. And for the first time, we have launched army exercises, land force exercises called Sada Tanseek. This is a new initiative. The first ever land forces exercise between India and Saudi Arabia called Sada Tanseek has been launched. So these topics, I feel, will be the most important from international relations and internal security for your upcoming prelims exam. I hope all of you have found this session to be helpful. I will share this PDF with the annotations on my Telegram channel. The link for my Telegram channel is given in the video description below. So click on that, join my Telegram channel. In few minutes, I'll be sharing this entire PDF with you so you can revise these topics, make a copy of the notes, and revise it right before the exam. So let me know what you think of the session. I hope it was interesting. I hope it was engaging. And I hope you have learned something important. More importantly, I really hope some questions at least come from what we have discussed. So that is it from my side. I hope all of you prepare well for the upcoming exam. I wish all of you the very best. Ensure you revise all the topics again and again. Try to attempt more questions before the exam. And more importantly, stay cool, stay calm because the exam is fast approaching. So I really hope all of you who have put in that effort will clear this exam. So if you like the session, press the like button, subscribe to the channel, And if you know other aspirants, do share the video with them as well. That is it. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow, don't forget, Asta ma'am will be taking up the next session on Conquer Prelims. That is it. Thank you. Good night.